Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, one and all. I feel like a ringleader every time I say that. I feel like I'm at the circus, like Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. When they have the ringmaster just doing the big old intro with the big top hat. Maybe I feel like Hugh Jackman in The Greatest Showman sometimes. But enough with the movie references. Welcome back, one and all, to another episode or spine number of Chasing Labels. This is spine number slash episode number slash whatever you want to call it, number 165. We are slowly making our way, I guess, towards 200 would be the next goal. I mean, the goal is to keep these going on forever, seemingly. But like I said, we are at number 165, and welcome back, everyone. If you are joining me here for the first time, I am your host, Andrew, here on this movie lovers, movie collectors podcast, where we basically go over most of the announcements in the movie release boutique world of home video over the last 2 weeks or so. Basically, things that I'm interested in, things that I want to add to my collection eventually, or perhaps you may want to add to your collection, or things that I just find interesting in general about what's going on in that area. So, welcome, one and all. So, first up here, things that have been happening here in the Chasing Labels world recently. Recently, we did our most recent episode of the Unwatched Pile, where my former co-host slash producer now, really, Steven, is he and I get together about once a month to pick a movie out of our unwatched pile. Could be something from a year ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, however long. Something we have never seen, but we bought once upon a time. We take that, we watch it, and then we pair it up with another movie in our collection that goes along with it in some way, shape, or form. We do that once a month. We have a new show now, or kind of a rebranding, revamp of a new show called Movies Down Memory Lane. We just did our second episode of that in this new revamp style this past weekend, so that is up on the channel now. Basically, we're taking a movie that we all know really, really well. It is myself, Steven, and our friend Dan. We take a movie that either one of us have known really, really well, something that is personal, sentimental to us, means a lot to us, something from our past. We take it and we discuss it, and we kind of gauge how the others feel about it, and how they feel about it after we've talked about it as well. So we've been doing that, and then of course we have the main show here called Chasing Labels, which we've been doing now for 4 years. We are past the 4-year mark here for Chasing Labels, and we are heading barreling towards June, which is not only Pride Month but is my birthday month as well, so I'm gearing up for that. That will be very, very interesting. 1 year older, 1 year smarter, who knows? But before we get into the what we talk about here, the boutique announcements over the last 2 weeks or so, the couple of news things when it comes to that world in general, 2 out of Arrow specifically. So as we talked about here recently on Chasing Labels and the movie collecting world in general, Shot Factory had pretty much bought the rights or the entire catalog to a lot of 80s Hong Kong films, prominent Hong Kong films that we've been wanting to see in really nice deluxe home video editions for years. Things like the John Woo back catalog, pretty much. A Better Tomorrow, The Killer, A Hard Boiled, etc., some Ringo Lam stuff as well. You know what I'm saying. So we talked about all of that here on Chasing Labels when the news broke a little while ago, and then the news broke that they're going to start releasing those in physical media form this summer. Starting off with a Jet Li box set from Shout Factory. That will be their first 5 movies in their Hong Kong line of movies. I forgot. I think it was Hong Kong Cinema Classics was the line they're opening up. But anywho, Shout Factory's doing that. But Arrow is now doing that as well. They are going to be they partnered up basically and bought the licensing rights for the UK from Shout to now put out their own versions, their own editions of The Killer and Hard Boiled and all of those films, that whole catalog of stuff. So now, as collectors, we've got to kind of wait and see what is Arrow going to do that's going to be different than Shout Factory when it comes to the difference in editions, the difference in special features, perhaps difference in picture quality. We're not quite sure yet. All we know is we're going to have basically two different editions of the same movies that we have to decide now. This is not out of the realm of things that we're not used to. Specifically with Shout and Arrow, they've been doing this quite a while, where one would put out an edition of a movie and the other one will put out their version of it. We've seen it with Exorcist 2 and 3. We've seen it with Carrie. We've seen it with Candyman. We've seen it with a bunch of other things. So this is not something we're not used to, but at least they're doing it now before these releases start coming out and people start buying editions and having to second guess things later on. So that's big news from Arrow as well. So that's big news in that regard, but also from Arrow. And this is just personal for me and probably personal for a lot of people. And I knew about this about a year ago because I had seen a little hint that it was coming online. So Arrow will be putting out a 4K UHD release, from what I understand, of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film from 1990. And I believe they'll probably be putting out its sequels too. That's my guess right now. So from what I've heard, that is coming. And the reason why is about a year ago, I saw a picture that was circulating online from our friend Justin Beam over at Reverend Entertainment, who does the special features packages, excuse me, for a lot of releases. He does a lot with Shout, Paramount, Arrow, etc., and he was shooting interviews for a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arrow release. So I knew that was coming because it was online. There's a picture of it. So, but to hear the full official, semi-official announcement that it is coming is nice. It is the I gotta count now. It's the 35th anniversary of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 1990 film. I was 3 years old when that movie came out, so it's been with me since a very, very young age. If you were not around in the late 80s and early 90s, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was the biggest brand in like children's entertainment. Like it was the franchise of that time. There were toys, there was comic books, there was the animated series, there was the live action movies. It was gigantic, and that brand has still gone on to this day in various iterations. There's still comic books, there's still animated series going on. Heck, there was an animated movie that just came out 2 years ago. There's been live action movies. I mean, there's the brand is still relatively strong amongst younger generations now. So it's nice to see this movie finally getting its due in a nice deluxe format edition. You know what I mean? The it's seen its versions on home video. We've had VHS. I've had the VHS. There were laser discs. There were DVDs. There are Blu-rays available, but the Blu-rays have been the same Blu-rays that have been around since 2009. They've been circulating and been repackaged over and over again in various Turtles trilogy packages and Turtles individual releases and all kinds of stuff. But it's been the same transfer, same special features, nothing different since 2009. In 2009, it was the 25th anniversary of the original comic debuting in 1984. So that's what that was. And now I want to make sure I got the dates right. 2000, 2010, 2020, and then 5 years later, 35. So 35th anniversary edition of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on 4K is coming from Arrow at some point. I'm super excited about that. I've got my old Blu-rays that are, like I said, long outdated. But some other kind of housekeeping news. I did get some new stuff over the last 2 weeks or so, and I want to share those with you guys before we dive into some of the new stuff that's been announced. First up here is a Warner Archive release called The Shining Hour. And I got this primarily because it's directed by Frank Borzage, who I think is a super underrated director from like the 30s and 40s. Check out Frank Borzage's work if you haven't already. There's a couple of releases that he has through Criterion, plus a couple from Kino, and I think and obviously this one here from Warner Archive. But obviously, the main reason to buy this movie is because it stars Joan Crawford. At least for me, I'm trying to buy all of the Joan Crawford film. I'm trying to collect all of her filmography. At least that's available. So I had to pick this up, and it was on sale. That's why I bought it as well. So slowly picking up. That's how I buy Warner Archive stuff. Is when I see them for the right price, I grab them. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, too good to pass up. Got to get them. So this is a Joan Crawford film. We've talked about this because this was announced oh a while ago, and this came out in 2024. So this was a Warner Archive release from last year that we've talked about here on Chasing Labels once upon a time. And then next up here is has a bit of a backstory to it. So my dad and my brother took a trip to England recently, actually earlier this month. They took a trip for about 12 days, and they asked me what I wanted from there. Obviously, movie related. So I had them go and pick up some UK releases that are from UK companies, particularly Indicator and Radiance. I figured while they were in the UK, might as well have them get me some UK releases. And starting up here with some Indicator stuff is Honor Among Lovers. This is the limited edition. This is the Dorothy Arzner film. I've also been trying to collect all of Dorothy Arzner's work as well. At least what's been available or put on Blu-ray so far. Not much has been put out. I know we've gotten two Criterions. We've got Merrily We Go to Hell, and we've got in Dance Girl Dance. And I think one more, and there was a Warner Archive release. I have it over there too. I can see it from here, but I can't read the title. I think it's it starred Katharine Hepburn from the 30s. But anywho, this is Honor Among Lovers. And for those of you who don't know who Dorothy Arzner was the only woman who was directing movies during the golden age of Hollywood. I believe her career spans from about 1919 to 1943, 44 or so. And she was the only one who was getting the opportunity to direct films during that era. And she left Hollywood after that, or I think her career kind of fizzled out towards the early 40s. And then she went into academia. She ended up teaching at UCLA. She actually taught Francis Ford Coppola at UCLA. She was one of his teachers there. He's talked about her many times, including when he went and did his own Criterion Closet video, Francis Ford Coppola did. And he talked about learning from Dorothy Arzner and stuff like that. And he's on one of the special features, I think for Dance Girl Dance. He talks about Dorothy Arzner on there as well. So he's on one of those special features. So I've been trying to get all the Dorothy Arzner I can. I think this is the last of the Blu-rays that are available for Dorothy Arzner's work that I have to get. But I picked up some other things here. Speaking of Joan Crawford, two Joan Crawford films that Indicator released. Both of these, I think, were from last. Yeah, I think all these were from this year. Either way, it's Queen Bee and Harriet Craig, which I talked about here on Chasing Labels. Great releases from Indicator. Indicator doesn't put out bad releases. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm a little biased because we talk about them so much, but Indicator really does some great work, and really great work with back catalog titles, like classic Hollywood film titles. They do incredible work on, which giving you all kinds of special features and commentaries. Great stuff. So the two Joan Crawford films. And then we have some Radiance. Always catching up on Radiance. It seems to be the name of the game here. And I've got The Landlord, which is a film directed by Hal Ashby, starring Beau Bridges. We've got what's this? A Quiet Place in the Country. This is an Elio Petri film, an Italian film from 1968. I talked about these before because I covered all these. And then I have Panic in Year Zero, directed by Ray Milland, I think starring Ray Milland as well. This is an apocalyptic film. Yes, it's a star Ray Milland. And this is a very interesting kind of 1962. So right in that kind of almost atomic age type of end of the world scenario that goes on in this movie. I really like this movie a lot. Panic in Year Zero. It's been released here. It's been released in the UK, obviously, but I really did enjoy visiting this film when we talked about it here on Chasing Labels. So that is it. So I got 3 Radiance releases, 3 Indicator releases, all bought, I guess you could say, locally in the UK, straight from the source, straight from the source. And I've got one Warner Archive here just to add more Joan Crawford to the ever-growing Joan Crawford collection. So with all of that being said, now let's get into the main bulk of the show. We do have some comments here. First off, we've got our buddy Jeff, who's with us once again. Hello, Jeff. Nice to see you in your Toshiro Mifune little thumbnail picture there. Jeff says, looking forward to the Ringo Lam films. Yes, that's going to be interesting. That's why I'm kind of holding out, because these are like big time movies that people have been wanting good releases of for years. So I'm going to wait to see what Arrow does with these. Yet again, I don't know time frame wise when these are going to be released. We will have to wait and see. All I know is that Shout Factory is going to start releasing them this summer. I believe July is when we're going to start seeing. We're going to see the Jet Li 5-movie box set. So let's see where we want to start here in terms of my notes. Let's start with Umbrella. Figure why not? Umbrella has their September releases. Okay, so we've got a couple of movies here. We have Black Sheep from 2006, Agitator from 2001, and Cypher from 2002. And there was a fourth one here that is delayed. So they were going to announce a fourth release, but it is indeed delayed. And just for the sake of time, Umbrella, of course, has their like standard regular edition released, and they have the collector's editions bundles, which has a bunch of extra swag to them. So instead of like going through each one and being like, hey, it comes with this, it comes like that, just know that you can buy 2 versions of their releases. Super duper collector's editions with a bunch of extra goodies, or you could just buy the movies pretty much themselves in a more standard fare, which are, of course, much cheaper. So let's see what we've got here in terms of the movies. Okay, so Black Sheep is getting a 4K release. You can watch this movie on Tubi right now, I think. And it's something you watch on Tubi. I'll be honest with you. Something you watch for free. If it has ads, it has ads, whatever. It's a killer sheep movie. This is what it is. It's like Deep Blue Sea meets The Birds meets any other animal attacks horror movie. But it's got really good gore effects in it. Like really gooey, like like practical gore effects in it. And I think the reason being is because the effects were done by Weta Workshop, which is Peter Jackson's effects company in New Zealand. This is a New Zealand film. So having the effects being done by like the Weta Workshop gave it a little extra oomph in terms of its, gorish qualities. So what happens here is you get our main protagonist has a fear of sheep. Of course he does, from some traumatic event he had as a child, and which you see at the beginning of the movie. And then he comes back years later, and just so happens that his brother gets involved with some scientific experiments with some local genetically engineered sheep that all of a sudden start like they it gets loose and they start going crazy and they start attacking people, and then those people end up start turning into sheep themselves. It's a wild, like 28 days later type of zombie breakout with sheep. It's exactly what you think it is. Gory, over the top, ridiculous, darkly comedic as well. Kind of a lot of fun if you're watching it with friends, but you got to be of a certain type of mind. Obviously, not be squeamish at all because there's a lot of goriness in it and whatnot. But this movie is coming with a ton of special features, all new stuff. New interview with the director. It's got there's a whole like. It's called From Bad Taste to Black Sheep, mapping the gory history of New Zealand slapstick with Dr. Alfio Leota. Genetic experiments gone wrong in film with David Michael Brown. Jonathan King interviewed by Berserker Project 2007. Audio commentary with critics Matt Donato and Rob Hunter. A unique transformation makeup test. And then you get an old audio commentary with the director and the main actor in the movie. There's a making of featurette, 5 deleted scenes, blooper reel, cast and crew interviews, B-roll stuff. This is coming out September 3rd. It's called Black Sheep. Just a sheep run amok horror film. Next, you have Agitator. Now, Agitator is a Takashi Miike film. Many of you probably know who Takashi Miike is. For those of you who don't, he is a pretty great Japanese director. He's directed tons of movies. I think he's directed over 100 movies. He's directed things like Ichi the Killer, and I think he directed Audition as well. Yeah, Ichi the Killer, Audition, 13 Assassins. He also directed that movie. What's that movie? I have it. Blade of the Immortal. Yeah, Blade of the Immortal. But yeah, he's directed. Oh yeah, he's directed over 100 films, and he's prolifically known for being, um, um, like going there in terms of graphicness in his movies. Like Audition is famous for its third act graphic violence. 13 Assassins, definitely graphic and violent. Ichi the Killer, graphic and violent. So he's known for these types of movies, pushing the envelope, going past the envelope. He's one of those types of directors. And this film here is a film I actually haven't seen. It's called Agitator. It's about 2.5 hours long. I think that's why I didn't really have time to watch it. But a nihilistic epic that spirals deep into the power struggles within Japan's organized crime underworld when an ambitious boss sets in motion a scheme to to consolidate power among rival factions. A loyal but delusional gang enforcer finds himself caught between duty, betrayal, and shifting alliances. Sounds really great to me. Like, I really want to see this movie. Some special features we got here is a new 3-hour extended cut of the movie. So not only is the movie already 2.5 hours long, you get an extra half an hour too in a new cut. There's a new audio commentary with writer and critic Tom Ness, the real agitator, Robert Edwards on Takashi Miike. These are all new special features coming out September 3rd. And then we have Cypher. Now, Cypher is an interesting movie because it is in the vein of a lot of those late 90s, early 2000s, like, I don't even know how to describe them, like futuristic sci-fi type of movies, if you will. For example, Dark City, The Matrix, Equilibrium. You can even say maybe Johnny Mnemonic is also thrown in there as well, even though Johnny Mnemonic is what, like 97, maybe a little earlier than that. But you understand what I'm saying. Those types of like futuristic, Philip K. Dick-esque type of sci-fi things going on. There was probably other ones in there that I can't remember, but um, even that one with Jean-Claude Van Damme, where he's like time traveling. Oh, Time Cop? Yeah, the one where he's traveling. Time Cop, like something like that. Um, so you got all those movies, and Cypher is kind of one of, all of those in the mix. Probably not remembered. It's not great. Let's see what they got here for the write-up. So a pulse-pounding cyber thriller starring Jeremy Northam and Lucy Liu. Who's in Charlie's Angels, of course, but she was also in Kill Bill Volume 1, plus many other things. Lucy Liu's great. Cypher builds a world where corporate espionage is the ultimate power game. When computer expert Morgan Sullivan joins a huge multinational company, he assumes a new identity and is sent undercover to investigate corporate espionage. Before long, he finds himself caught up in a vivacious cycle of paranoia and mistrust. Then along comes Rita, Lucy Liu, a sexy and smart secret agent who informs Sullivan that he's being brainwashed and that she is the only one who can help him. So you've got a mystery within a mystery, twists and turns, espionage, red herrings, plot reveal after plot reveal, all kinds of stuff going on in the movie, pretty much up until the end, actually. The movie itself is okay. It's a little slow for something that is a pulse-pounding cyber thriller. There's not a lot of thrill going on here. It's rather slow, actually. But it's okay. It's fine. Lucy Liu is great in it. She looks fantastic. Her acting's great. The guy they get to play the main person, Jeremy Northam, kind of dull. Um, yeah. But we got some special features. Let's see, critical audio commentary with critics Simon Morato and Tristan Fiddler. Director Vincenzo Natali interviewed by Claire Donner, Miskatonic Institute of Horror Studies. Director of photography Derek Rogers interviewed by Nicole McControversy. That's a cool last name there. A twisty, underrated sci-fi chiller, The Overlooked Motel on Cypher. And we've got writer Brian King interviewed by Nicole McControversy. Audio commentary by the director, actor David Hewlett, designer Yasna Stefanovic, and writer Brian King. Q&A with Jeremy Northam and Lucy Liu. That's kind of cool. Making a featurette, deleted and extended scenes, behind the scenes with director commentary, casting crew interviews, interview with director Vincenzo Natali, and that is about it. All of these are coming out September 3rd. So all three of these, September 3rd, we've got Umbrella's slate for September, Black Sheep on 4K, Agitator, and Cypher. Agitator's on Blu-ray, and looks like Cypher and Black Sheep are 4Ks. Okay? Just want to make that distinction. So pretty cool little slate there from Umbrella. Yet again, you can buy the super deluxe collector's editions that comes with like the large like hardcover books and posters and art cards, all that kind of stuff. Or you can just get the regular editions of those. So that is Umbrella. So moving on from there, let's see what else we've got. Let's go to Indicator. Why not? I was just talking about Indicator earlier. Let me go to Indicator now. Did I? Hold on. I thought I had brought it up already. Let me go there now. So go to powerhousefilms.co.uk, and that is Indicator's website. And we have 6 releases that were announced, 2 of which are US only releases. And I'll make sure to point those out when we get to them. So our buddies over at Indicator. As I said, I got my Indicator releases right next to me. I don't know why I'm holding them up again, as if people at home can see them, but they can't. But you guys here on YouTube can. So we've got some Indicator releases. I've got stuff in the wrong place. Put that back to where it's supposed to be. And actually, there's the original one. So the 6 releases are Storm Center, starring Betty Davis. We have Bonjour, Tristesse, which is an Otto Preminger film. Liberation of L.B. Jones, which already has, I believe, an Imprint release. We talked about it when Imprint announced that. And Justice for All, which is the Al Pacino film where he says, this whole court is out of order. And then we have The Rainbow Jacket and Out of the Clouds. Now, The Rainbow Jacket and Out of the Clouds are both the US only releases. These are both Basil Dearden films, and Indicator's put out a bunch of Basil Dearden films recently. So this will add to that slate of his work. And I think this is it in terms of all of the Basil Dearden releases that they will be putting out. Excuse me. So starting off, because I think we also already talked about Storm Center. Let me go check on Blu-ray.com because I believe this was another one that had already been released by somebody else. Yeah, this has already been released by, this was released by Imprint back in 2022. So 3 years ago. This was Imprint number 155, and I remember talking about this movie at the time, starring Betty Davis, Brian Keith, Kim Hunter's in the film as well, directed by Daniel Taradash. Came out in 1956, starring the one and only Betty Davis. Now, just a refresher here. This is coming out August 18th from Indicator. Idealistic librarian Alicia, who was Betty Davis, is fired after refusing to remove a book from her small-town library. Despite the attempts of a local judge to defend her, attorney Paul leads a campaign to vilify Alicia with unexpected consequences for the community. I do remember this movie. Betty Davis is a librarian, and there's a book in the library. I guess that local parents or people don't want in there, and she defends the right to have it in there, and then legal consequences assume after that. Um, or presume after that. And I remember talking about this movie at the time because it's a movie dealing with like censorship and dealing with, um, individual freedoms and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of special features, we have an audio commentary with professor and film scholar Jason A. Ney, Lies Lankman on Storm Center. The academic and film historian examines the film's themes and production. The Guardian interview with Saul Bass from 1986. That's kind of awesome. Archival audio of recording of the revered designer in conversation at the National Film Theatre, London. And then that's it. I think it comes with a booklet as well, like these all do. Um, Very interesting. And this is a Region B locked disc. Yes, that makes kind of a lot of sense. So this is a Region B disc, and this is Betty Davis in Storm Center. Now we have Bonjour, Tristesse, which is a Otto Preminger film, and starring Deborah Carr, David Niven, Gene Seberg. I've seen this movie because I actually have it in an old Olive Films release, I think. So Otto Preminger directs Bonjour Tristesse, a stylish adaptation of Francois Sagan's novel starring Deborah Carr, David Niven, and Gene Seberg. Holidaying on the French Riviera, widower and playboy Raymond, David Niven, begins to develop a relationship with staid Anne, Deborah Carr. His manipulative daughter, Cecile, played by Gene Seberg, fearing her behavior will be curtailed, conspires to come between them with tragic results. Shot on location by Georges Parinal in an innovative mixture of color and black and white photography, Bonjour Tristesse was a favorite film of Nouvelle Vague filmmakers Francois Truffaut and Jean-Luc Godard, with the latter casting Seberg in his debut feature, Breathless. So this film came out 1958, so obviously before Breathless. And let's see what we have here for special features. It's a kind of 4K restoration, original mono audio commentary with critics and writers Glenn Kenny and Farron Smith Neame. Jeff Andrew on Bonjour Tristesse, the writer and critic delves into the making of the film and discusses its cast and crew. A charming little monster, Denny Westhoff, Francois Sagan discusses his mother's best-selling novel and its adaptation for the screen. And then that's it. Original theatrical trailer, which you can watch that on YouTube at this point. Obviously, a booklet here as well. This is a Region B release as well. Usually, these the older films, the stuff that's typically, from like back catalog studio stuff, is typically Region B because here in the US, somebody will already have the rights to that. It's typically Kino. Typically Kino that has the rights here in the US for a lot of these. With Bonjour Tristesse, I'm not sure who has the rights now because Olive Films no longer around. So I'd have to check up on that. Either way, if you're an Otto Preminger fan, check the film out. So moving on from Bonjour Tristesse, we have The Liberation of L.B. Jones, which we've talked about already because that had an imprint release. This is the William Wyler film from 1970. Legendary director William Wyler, who directed Ben-Hur and amongst other great films, concluded his filmmaking career with The Liberation of L.B. Jones, a searing indictment of institutional racism, starring Lee J. Cobb, Anthony Zerba, and Roscoe Lee Brown. When Black funeral director L.B. Jones finds that his pregnant wife, Emma, is having an affair with the white policeman, he demands a divorce. Worth and his racist colleague exact brutal revenge upon Jones and conspire to cover up their actions with the assistance of the local district attorney, who's Lee J. Cobb. So what you got here is obviously a film dealing directly with racism, directly with police corruption and police brutality and stuff like that, which is stuff that's could be taken directly from today's world. So this movie is dealing with rather timeless themes. For special features, we have an audio commentary with journalist and author Brian Reisman and film critic and filmmaker Mike Sargent. Neil Signard on the liberation of L.B. Jones, the film historian and writer of A Wonderful Heart, the films of William Wyler, delves into the making of and reception to the film. Isolated music and effects track, and then image gallery, and then that's it. Obviously, a booklet here as well, also Region B locked. So the next one, which is something that I'm very interested in, is And Justice for All. The reason being is And Justice for All really has not gotten a great Blu-ray release here in Region A land. It's only ever gotten, I think, one Blu-ray release here, and it was from, I want to say, Image Entertainment. Let me see. Yep, Image Entertainment, which is now doesn't even exist anymore. I think they were bought up by Paramount, and a lot of their stuff was re-released through Paramount's line. For example, the Twilight Zone TV series from back in the day. I believe those Blu-rays, when they initially came out, were put out by Image Entertainment, and now they've been re-released by Paramount. Paramount has also re-released it in a complete series box set as well. So that's how I remember that Image Entertainment is kind of part of Paramount now. That's my reasoning behind all of that. But And Justice for All, like I said, has only ever gotten a Blu-ray release from Image Entertainment in 2011 that is now out of print, and it's probably not a great release in terms of, yeah, oh boy. No, I don't think there's anything in the way of special features on it. Yeah, there's deleted scenes, and that's it. And that's like 2 minutes of deleted scenes. What's a damn shame is that this is a Norman Jewison film. And his films have been getting some really good releases over the last little while. So this is a much welcome re-release. So for those of you who haven't seen this film, it's a Norman Jewison film from 1979, starring Al Pacino, Jack Warden, John Forsythe, and it's a courtroom lawyer drama. So firebrand defense attorney Arthur Kirkland, who's Al Pacino, finds that the demands of his job are at odds with his conscience. When he is forced to defend a judge who is accused of terrible crime, he plunges into a moral crisis. Written by Barry Levinson and Valerie Curtin, and with acting support from Lee Strasberg and Jeffrey Tambor. And Justice for All is a riveting, powerful exploration of hypocrisy and injustice. I haven't seen this movie in a long time. I don't think I've seen this movie probably since 2011, speaking of which. So yeah, I'm a little fuzzy on it. All I remember is, of course, it has that great scene with Al Pacino in the court saying, this whole place is out of order and all this kind of stuff. Him just yelling at the top of his lungs, which is what Al Pacino has been kind of known for doing in his career, even early on. So for special features for And Justice for All, we have an audio commentary with director Norman Jewison. We have an audio commentary from film historians Alexandra Helen Nicholas and Josh Nelson. Alexandra Helen Nicholas, our friend here on Chasing Labels. Norman Jewison, the testimony of the director, which is an archival interview. Barry Levinson cross-examination, cross-examining the screenwriter, archival interview. Barry Levinson at the BFI, archival audio recording of the writer turned director in conversation at the BFI in London. And that is it. So going from 0 special features to 2 audio commentaries plus a bunch of interviews here, archival or not, is nice. Definitely nice. Let's see, we've got, there's a booklet here, of course, as well, that has actually more interviews with Al Pacino and Barry Levinson and Norman Jewison. This is also a Region B release. I wonder who has the rights here. If it is indeed Paramount, my guess is they've licensed it out to probably Kino in one of the Paramount Kino deals. That's my guess. Or it could be somebody else. It could be somebody else because Paramount's been lending out licensing to a lot of different companies. I know they've got a licensing deal going on with Vinegar Syndrome as well, so we will see. It could be a cinematograph release in the future for all we know. It feels like there would be a cinematograph release. Well, speaking of which, we will be getting to Vinegar Syndrome later because this weekend they had their halfway to Black Friday sale, and they announced the rest of their mystery titles. So I wanted to, of course, go over those. The sale does end at midnight tonight, which is May 26th. So by the time any of you listen to this, the sale will be over. Hopefully, you are aware of it and you picked up some stuff. If not, there's always the Black Friday sale, which is in November, and so you can always get stuff there. But we'll get to that when we get to that. So that is Injustice for All. Now we get to the two Basil Dearderns. I call this the double Dearden. We've got the Rainbow Jacket, which is a much better movie than Out of the Clouds. Out of the Clouds I didn't really like at all. But so Basil Dearden, who's a great kind of English, UK director, um, whose work has been around for years. Like there was an Eclipse box set from Criterion called like Basil Dearden Underground Films, which I remember seeing early on in my Criterion collecting days. So I've been aware of him for a while, but I've only really gotten to delve into his work most recently. So with the Rainbow Jacket, this is a US only release from 1954. Robert Morley, Kay Walsh, Bill Owen, and Honor Blackman lead the cast of Rainbow Jacket, a thrilling expose of the horse racing world from Ealing Studios. Disgraced champion jockey Sam takes eager young racing enthusiast Georgie under his wing. As Georgie's talent becomes evident, Sam sees a chance of redemption if he can resist temptation. From the celebrated director-producer team of Basil Dearden and Michael Relf, and scripted by T.E.B. Clark, the Rainbow Jacket is a thrilling tale of ambition and integrity. Yeah, thrilling is a bit of a stretch. It's a good, solid movie. It's a good movie dealing with kind of what you were saying, that you have this disgraced former jockey who was basically kicked out for some illegal stuff that he was doing, and he takes a very, very young kid under his wing. By young kid, I'm talking like teenager. Like he's super, super young. Maybe kind of like teenage-ish years, and takes him under his wing and gets him into the world of horse racing. And in doing so, he initially does it not to work his way back into it, but just kind of doing it to be a mentor figure and this kind of stuff. Basically, a sense, I guess, a personal redemption versus actual redemption. And complications ensue because the movie's kind of exploring the corruption that's going on within the horse racing world when it comes to gambling and fixing races and stuff like that. And and the kid may be getting caught up in things like that and whatnot. So the movie's dealing with a lot of those things, with a lot of personal journeys going on here. I thought it was a solid film. So for special features for the Rainbow Jacket, we have a high-definition remaster, original mono audio, Sweet Redemption, director and screenwriter James Dearden introduces his father's work, Racing at Ealing, a look at the film's production featuring interviews with various Ealing crew members, a Jockey of the Jacket, actor Fela Edmonds recalls his experience of making the film, original theatrical trailer. That's it. And then you've got image gallery and you have a booklet as well. Region A. So this is Region A only. So you can actually only get this from US retailers as well. You can only get it from Orbit DVD, Diabolic DVD, and Amazon here in the US primarily. You can probably find it on other US sites too. But those are the primary ones I think a lot of us go to for the most part. So Out of the Clouds, also US only release, Basil Dearden, 1955. This movie's not great. It's kind of you'll understand in a second. So, let's see. From director Basil Dearden and producer Michael Relf, comes Out of the Clouds, a star-studded adventure of the burgeoning jet age from Ealing Studios. A series of stories unfolds over 24 hours in a bustling airport. Pilot and gambler Gus finds himself involved in a smuggling ring. Duty officer Nick vies for the attentions of attractive stewardess Penny, and American engineer Bill falls for Leah, a young woman en route to marry her fiance. With a screenplay co-written by documentary pioneer John Eldridge, was Out of the Clouds was partly filmed at the then rapidly expanding London airport, now known as Heathrow, and boasts a level of realism thanks to technical assistance received from leading airlines and the Ministry of Transport. Honestly, this movie is pretty much just a one long advertisement for the air travel. Air travel and the London airport at the time, Heathrow Airport. It's kind of what the movie's about. The plot, the various plots that are going on with the various characters is there, but it's not like super interesting. It's not like riveting in any way. Like there's no real like drama or cool stuff going on. It's just like showing like the little like how do I say this? The little like like inner office politics that are going on, or little like inner office relationships that are going on with the various, people and whatnot. Yeah, it's not. I didn't find it to be too interesting, to be quite honest with all of you. But it's more like historically interesting that they would make a movie in the mid 1950s to really sell the idea of airline travel, to sell the idea of airports and all that kind of stuff. Something that we take for granted today because, air travel is something that's so readily a part of people's everyday lives, especially here in the United States. Heck, today was Memorial Day. Speaking of which, happy Memorial Day to everyone listening. If you are in the United States and you do celebrate Memorial Day, happy Memorial Day to everyone. Today is a big like traveling day as well. I think people are traveling for various reasons. It seems like every holiday people are traveling. Heck, every day people are traveling, specifically air travel. But this was the mid 1950s. Not that wasn't the biggest thing as it is now. It would grow over the years as well. So I find this kind of an interesting movie from that perspective, not so much for a plot perspective. But we have some special features here: 2K restoration, two presentations of the film. We have the original UK theatrical version, which runs 89 minutes, and then the shorter US theatrical cut, 80 minutes. Why they cut 9 minutes out of this movie, I don't know. Original mono audio, fully grounded. Director and screenwriter James Dearden introduced his father's work. I wonder if that's the same introduction that's on the Rainbow Jacket. Perhaps it is. Jonathan Rigby on James Robertson Justice. The film historian reviews the career of the multifaceted character actor. Waverly Steps, classic city symphony portrait of Edinburgh, directed by Out of the Clouds screenwriter John Eldridge. Image galleries, and that's it. And then the booklet as well. Region A, like I said, Region A locked. And you can only get that at, like I said, Diabolic DVD, Orbit DVD, Amazon, and probably other various US retailers as well. I did want to mention this. So the two Jean Roland films, the US releases of two Jean Roland films, limited editions are now out of stock on their website, and they've re-released them as standard editions. And those are for the movies Lips of Blood and The Night of the Hunted. While these limited editions are still available at some online retailers, they are not available from Indicator's website anymore because they've sold out. So, but you could still find the limited editions out there. Speaking of which, I still have to get them. So I'm one of the ones who still need to get the limited editions of Lips of Blood, The Night of the Hunted, because they now have standard editions. So I just want to make sure people were aware of that so that they don't miss out. Yeah. Our buddy Jeff says, I can finally replace my beat up DVD of And Justice for All. To be honest, Jeff, that's how I watched it. A friend of mine had a beat up DVD copy of it, probably used, that he let me borrow, like like I said, circa 2011, 2012, because I hadn't seen it yet. And he was like, "Yeah, you can borrow it," and I did. So let's see what else. That is Indicator. Let's move on to, let's see, Umbrella we've done, Indicator we've done. Let's go to Imprint. Yeah, let's go to Imprint because they've got 3 movies, and it'll be quick because I haven't been able to see these movies yet, unfortunately. So Imprint had their Imprint Asia July slate announcement. And it was The Weird Man from 1983, The 14 Amazons from 1972, and The Lady Hermit from 1971. And you can pre-order these from their website right now. And yes, so The Weird Man, a worldwide first on Blu-ray. Popular director Chang Che brought the classic novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms to the screen with this wild, colorful tale of revenge. Chang Tianchi stars as the beheaded, crazed Taoist priest Yu Ji, returned from the dead with the supernatural power to seek divine retribution against the corrupt warlord General Sun Si and his treacherous court. Heroes, sorcerers, and armies try to defeat the evil spirit, building to an explosive confrontation steeped in mystic martial arts fury. Cool. You've got audio commentary by director Stephen Hammond. Oh, by author Stephen Hammond. Sorry. Interview with film scholar Dr. Luke White. That is it. So that's The Weird Man from 1983. Let's see. We have The 14 Amazons from 1972. A classic Shaw Brothers Wuxia film, 14 Fearless Women, One Bloody Mission. A classic Shaw Brothers wuxia film, directed by Cheng Kang, serves up a blood-soaked, war-torn spectacle of 14 vengeful women fighting for what is theirs. The Yang family, men and women, have served their country loyally for generations. During the war, the last male heir, General Yang, is ambushed and killed. His widow and a large number of courageous women set out to avenge his death and defend the country. Inspired by the ancient Chinese folklore tales, the generals of the Yang family, this martial arts historical epic was the winner of the Best Director, Best Supporting Actors, and Best Sound Effects at the 1973 Golden Horse Awards. That's kind of cool. We got a new audio commentary by Asian film expert Mike Leader, a new interview with film scholar Wayne Wong, and that's it. So that is the 14 Amazons. And then last here we have The Lady Hermit from 1971. And this is, it says here, Cheng Pei leads a fearless force of female warriors in this action-packed Shaw Brothers wuxia epic. Now, for those of you keeping track at home, we have so much Shaw Brothers releases over the last few years, so many, that I can't keep track of this anymore. I'll be honest with you. I can't keep track of who's putting out what, where, and who's putting out the same movies, because there's just so much Shaw Brothers stuff. It gives me a headache thinking about it. Just off the top of my head, we've got 3 box set releases from Arrow. I still have to get the third one. We've got, I believe, 6 volumes from Shout Factory, that Shaw Brothers Classics volumes. Plus, I think they have 2 spin-offs of other Shaw Brothers films that aren't part of those volumes. And then they've got, I think, 2 Golden Harvest sets as well. But Golden Harvest is something different, but still, so much martial arts stuff that we've been getting. Plus, stuff from Eureka. Plus, stuff from Imprint, plus stuff from 88 Films. So much. Now we're getting all of the Hong Kong action films from that geographical area of the world that's coming on the way. Man, we got so much. Man, it's so much. So much. My head hurts just thinking about it. Let me go back to where I was with The Lady Hermit. This Shaw Brothers wuxia epic stars Chang Pei, who is in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, teaming up with director Ho Man Hua to create an action-packed, sword-slashing martial arts adventure with fierce female warriors. Young swordsman Shu Ping idolizes the great and mysterious Lady Hermit, a master of kung fu, and enlists her help and tutelage to defeat the evil black demon and his minions. Fellow swordsman Chen Kun joins them, complicating their fight for victory. For special features, got an audio commentary with Sam Deegan and an interview with film scholar Wayne Wong, and that's it. So that's The Lady Hermit. So, let's see. These are all coming out July. Yes, July. So these are the Imprint July Asia from, how do I say this? So Imprint Asia July announcements with uh, The Weird Man, The 14 Amazons, and The Lady Hermit. So 3 releases coming this July. So let's move on from there. I so You know what? Since okay, no. You know what? Since we're in this vein, we'll go to Eureka, because Eureka has a Wuxia box set as well. Figured we might as well double up on this while we're here. So and I'll start right off the bat. So Eureka Entertainment has announced that it will add 2 more titles to its catalog in August. They are Martial Law Lowe's Wuxia World, 1968 to 1971, and Finis Terrae. Previously, the label had revealed that it will bring to 4K Blu-ray Trouble Every Day. That is the Claire Denis film, which I think we talked about when it was announced, but we'll talk about it again while we're here. But let's get to that Wuxia box set. So, Martial Law Lowe's Wuxia World. A prolific writer and director, Lowe found fame in the 1970s following the enormous international success of The Big Boss and Fist of Fury. His collaborations with the inimitable Bruce Lee. In the years before he kickstarted a Kung Fu revolution, though, he had been working on the accomplished series of Wuxia, um, yeah, a Wuxia for Shaw Brothers. Presented here are 3 standout films drawn from Lowe's Wuxia world: The Black Butterfly, Death Valley, and Vengeance of a Snow Girl. Um, yeah, I'll just read this here, because I didn't get to see these either. So I'll just read what they've got here, just kind of summarizing things. In The Black Butterfly, a good-hearted thief acts as the Robin Hood of the martial arts world, robbing from the rich to give to the poor. And they begin by stealing a fortune in gold from a group of 5 ruthless bandits, holed up at Five Devils Rock. Then in Death Valley, the Lord of Chow Manor is murdered by his niece, leading to a bitter fight to claim his land and a clash between a hired swordsman and the Lord's heir apparent. Finally, in Vengeance of a Snow Girl, a young woman takes revenge for her murdered parents who were killed in a dispute over the legendary Sui Fang sword, leading to a final showdown on frozen ground. Gives me a little bit of Lady Snowblood vibes there. But Lowe's Black Butterfly, Death Valley, and Vengeance of a Snow Girl are 3 of the finest wuxia films produced in the years before Bruce Lee's meteoric rise to fame would cause a tectonic shift in the Hong Kong film industry. As the era of Kung Fu loomed on the horizon, Eureka Classics is proud to present all 3 films on Blu-ray for the first time in the UK. So, we got high-definition transfers, I guess of each film. New audio commentaries on all 3 features by action cinema experts Mike Leader and On Venema. Hong Kong Hustle, new interview with Hong Kong cinema scholar Wayne Wong on the life and work of Lo Wei. And then it's, limited edition slipcovers and such like that. Let me make sure, yep, still looking good. Just want to make sure the stream on my camera's still working. But yeah, so that is the box set from Eureka. So you're getting plenty of wuxia films from all over the place. But I think it doesn't say specifically if it's Shaw Brothers or Golden Harvest. Or did I say that already? Hold on. I think this is. This is a Shaw Brothers. These are Shaw Brothers films. So more Shaw Brothers films. So let me move on to their 2 other releases that they've got here. Finis Terrae. I think it's either Finis Terrae or Finis Terrae. It's French, I believe. So either way, it's French. One of the most important filmmakers France has ever produced, Jean Epstein, was a film theorist, a critic, and a leading figure in the French Impressionist movement. Perhaps best known today for directing the first adaptation of The Fall of the House of Usher from a screenplay co-written by Louis Buñuel, Epstein produced several masterpieces during the silent period, including Faithful Heart, The Three-Sided Mirror, and Finis Terrae, the story of a group of fishermen stranded off the coast of Brittany. So 4 fishermen set out on a 3-month expedition to the islet Banek. They intend to harvest seaweed, which will fetch high prices if burned and processed properly. But cabin fever soon sets in. After two of the men brawl over a broken bottle of wine, one of them cuts his thumb on a piece of glass while the other comes to suspect that his knife has been stolen with malicious intent. As the situation escalates, conditions at sea make it impossible for the men to leave Benek or for help from the mainland to reach them. An atmospheric maritime tale and a forerunner to such films as Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse. I was literally just thinking that. The Lighthouse, and Mark Jenkins's Bait. Finis Terrae is one of Gene Epstein's finest achievements and an aesthetic triumph, particularly in its early and deeply effective use of slow motion cinematography. The Masters of Cinema series is honored to present Finis Terrae on Blu-ray for the first time in the UK and North America, sourced from an astounding 4K restoration by Gaumont Film Company. So I'm surprised this is not getting a 4K release, since it's got a what I assume is a beautiful 4K restoration by Gaumont. Um, yeah, so I did get to see this movie, and it is gorgeously stunning. Gorgeous cinematography, beautiful black and white. There are sequences of surrealness in the film that are incredibly well done. Yeah, it's a really great silent film. But like I say with anything when it comes to silent film, watching a silent movie is not like watching a modern film or not like watching a talkie at all. It's very different in terms of pacing, in terms of feel, in terms of mood, in terms of just experience in general. You have to be really locked into watching a silent film. So go into silent films knowing that. But this film is really good, and it does give off that kind of Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse vibes to it. That feeling of isolation can kind of lead to, um, the mind kind of straying. You know what I'm saying? But for special features, like I said, 4K restoration, impressions on Gene Epstein, new interview with film historian and critic Pamela Hutchinson on the film and work of the director. Stranded new video essay on Finis Terrae, the bottom of the wave, and archival appreciation of Finis Terrae by Joel Dare, and then you have a limited edition O card slipcase, and all that stuff. The collector's booklet as well, collector's booklet with the Wuxia set too. For those of you who've been buying Eureka stuff, you know what to expect. But this is both a US and UK release. Let me just make sure that's region A and region B. Yes. Let's see. And this is coming out August. These are their August releases. I don't know why it said July up top. No, August. Yeah. Yeah, these are their August releases. So, lastly, is something we've already talked about, and this is the movie Trouble Every Day, which is getting a 4K release. So, okay. Um, let's see. The first excursion into genre cinema by celebrated French auteur Claire Denis, who made her name with her previous features Chocolat and Beau Travail. Trouble Every Day is an erotically charged exploration of our darkest human desire and a key film in the development of what later came to be known as the new French extremity movement. Yes, so Dr. Shane Brown are and his new wife June are honeymooning in Paris. Though Shane has other plans for their trip, he is hoping to track down his former medical colleague and discuss a past study into the human libido. But Leo doesn't want to be found. He is living in obscurity to hide his own wife, who has developed an insatiable cannibalistic lust as a result of Leo's outlandish experiments, a lust that Shane is beginning to feel too. Yeah, I remember talking about this movie when it was announced a while ago, actually. Um, Kind of a haunting film on. Yeah, I don't want to get too into it because I talked about it already. So, a dark and lyrical rumination on the pleasures of the flesh, Trouble Every Day is a remarkable work of extreme cinema that challenged critics and audiences upon its release before it came to be lauded as a modern classic. Yeah, so 4K Blu-ray slash Blu-ray combo pack, new 4K restoration of the film, Dolby Vision and HDR presentation of the film. Let's see, it's original French soundtrack, English subtitles, new commentary with horror scholar Lindsay Hallam, Pleasures of the Flesh, new interview with new French extremity expert Alice Haylett Bryan. I Could Eat You, new video essay by film writer and journalist Virginie Salavé on the troubled everyday on trouble everyday. That kind of spoils things. I don't want to say that. You got a 60-page collector's book in here. You got a limited edition hardbound slipcase, and it's coming out August 18th. I tried to dance around the spoilers in it because they really just spoil everything in this little in this list of stuff. So, that is it for Eureka Entertainment's August releases. You've got Martial Law, Loway's Wuxia World, 1968 to 1971, Finis Terrae from 1929, a silent film, and then you have Trouble Every Day. That's a 4K release. All right then. Where do we go now? You know what? Let's go over to Severin. Let's see, where are you, Severin? There you are. So Severin announces their August releases. Here we go. So Severin is has announced a couple of releases for a box set plus a couple of others here. So let me get into it. So they are High Tension, 4 films by Lamberto Bava. That's the box set. Then we have The Odd Job from 1978, The Ghost of Peter Sellers from 2018, and Negatives from 1968. Those 3 films are all directed by the same person. They're all directed by Peter Medak. And I'll get into why they're significant really soon. But first, let's go into this Lamberto Bava box set. So, Lamberto Bava, the son of the great Mario Bava, continuing in his father's footsteps to make horror films, Italian horror films. So we've got a couple of late 80s films from him. So in the late 80s, Lamberto Bava agreed to direct a 4-part anthology series for Italian TV under the title High Tension. But when executives saw the completed features, extreme themes and graphic violence, well, they knew what they were getting. Their broadcast was blocked for nearly a decade, and they have only existed as gray market bootlegs since. Severin Films now presents their official worldwide Blu-ray premiere. That's kind of incredible. Okay, so Thomas Arana stars as a horror director stalked by evil forces in The Prince of Terror, written by Dardano Sacchetti and featuring grisly effects by Sergio Stivaleti. In The Man Who Wouldn't Die, adapted from a short story by Poliziotteschi novelist Giorgio Scarbanecco, the survivor of a home invasion seeks vengeance. Daria Nicolodi stars in School of Fear about a student academy with a dark secret. And in the Giallo shocker Eyewitness, Barbara Cupisti stars as a blind woman who sees a murder. All 4 films are scanned in 2K from the original camera negatives with Italian and first ever English tracks, plus over 5 hours of special features and a soundtrack CD curated by Simon Boswell featuring music from High Tension, The Mask of Satan, Demons 2, Delirium, and more. So we've got a 5-disc set, including the CD, which Severin is known to do. So disc 1 is The Prince of Terror. Disc 2 is The Man Who Wouldn't Die. Disc 3 is School of Fear. Disc 4 is the CD, which is odd because I would think that disc 5 would be the CD, but it's not. Disc 5 is Eyewitness. So these each all come with special features. They're each on their own disc. And if you know Severin box sets, they all come in individual cases inside of a box that's like a top-loading box. I mean, I've got several of them here. Hold on. Let me go grab one. It takes me 2 seconds. So I've got a couple of their box sets. I'm so far behind on getting their box sets. I've got the House of Psychotic Women. This is coincidentally, this is volume 1 because they just put out a volume 2 of this. And the way in which these box sets are designed, for those of you who have never seen them before, and I know not everybody knows about this. We're all about education here on Chasing Labels. So it's they usually top loading, meaning the top pops off, and then you've got the cases inside. And the cases in Severin's case are usually black cases, which are kind of cool. No one's really putting out black cases. And, they're individual releases with the individual artwork plus discs and whatever. And yeah, that's typically how their box sets are designed. Simple, functional, good quality cardboard, great artwork. Each of the movies is individually cased, so there's no chances of discs getting scratched, rubbing up against one another like some other box sets we've seen, or anything like that. It's perfect, really perfect. Don't ever change the design, Severin. Don't ever change it. It's perfect. Yes. Let's see. Our buddy Jeff here says both Mario and Lamberto Bava are getting sets. Yes. So that's literally where I'm going to go to next. after I'm done with talking about Severin, I'm going to go to Shout Factory's putting out a Mario Bava box set. So I figured I would pair them together. Doing a little connection here on the fly. So yeah, we are getting both Lamberto Bava box sets and Mario Bava box sets as well. But yeah, so the rest of these releases, like I said, the Lamberto Bava box set, each movie's getting, let's see, it says 2K restoration, 2K restoration, 2K restoration, and 2K restoration. So all four of these movies are all getting 2K restorations. They all come with like interviews, and yeah, it's all good stuff. It's gonna be worth getting that box set, I think, just because of the fact that these movies probably either haven't been seen, or if they have been seen, they've been seen in pretty low quality. They're all going to be getting some pretty nice quality release finally. But next, I want to start talking about these other three films. So we've got Negatives, the Odd Job, and we have The Ghost of Peter Sellers. So I started off my research here by watching The Ghost of Peter Sellers. I'm a Peter Sellers fan. I've seen all of his work with the Pink Panther. I've seen Doctor Strangelove. I've seen a couple of his other British comedies, all those kinds of big Peter Sellers fan. So I'm like, this sounds interesting. So this is a documentary about a relatively lost Peter Sellers film that was directed by Peter Medak back in 1973. And this documentary is also directed by Peter Medak as well. And it's him talking about the tumultuous making of this movie called A Ghost in the Noonday Sun. Now, Ghost in the Noonday Sun was made and completed, but it was never released theatrically, and only ever got like a VHS and Betamax release, and then it got a DVD release in like 2016. And so it's basically the director just talking about just the awful time it was making this movie, because Peter Sellers was so hard to work with. Peter Sellers didn't want to be involved in making the movie. Like, he tried everything he could to like get out of making the movie while making the movie. Like, he faked a heart attack one time. He would purposely fight with other actors to the point where he couldn't work with them anymore. He would show up late to sets. He would just not want to work on this movie. And yeah, that's pretty much what this documentary is all about. It's streaming on Tubi right now. It's called The Ghost of Peter Sellers. I'll read this here. It says, in 1973, Peter Sellers, then at the peak of his box office power and comedic genius, invited Peter Medak, whose recent smash hit The Ruling Class had been nominated for the Palme d'Or and an Oscar, to direct a 17th century pirate epic called Ghost in the Noonday Sun, but with soon-to-be discovered nightmares that included an unfinished script, and rough seas, sinking ships, and Sellers' own wildly erratic behavior, the production became an unprecedented catastrophe. The barely completed film was dumped into a very limited release, and the director's career and spirit were nearly destroyed by the experience. Over 4 decades later, Medak revisits the personal and professional fiasco to search for answers and possibly redemption in a journey that's been called jaw-dropping, nightmarishly funny, and one of the great making of documentaries of all time. Now, it's okay. It's not one of the best I've seen ever. To me, I still think one of the best ever is Jodorowsky's Dune. That documentary to me is like incredible. Like I am blown away by that documentary. But in a similar type of vein to kind of Jodorowsky's Dune, or if you're familiar with Lost in La Mancha, which is Terry Gilliam's, which is the documentary about Terry Gilliam trying to make Don Quixote, and just everything going wrong in that production, from the weather not cooperating to the lead who was playing Don Quixote getting sick, to everything going wrong in that. He eventually was actually able to make his Don Quixote film many years later. I think he made it about, I think it came out about 10 years ago, starring Adam Driver, if I remember correctly, or something like that. But he finally got to make it, but obviously long after, in a completely different version of it. But similar to Vane, just like everything going wrong went wrong during that production. Seemingly the same thing happened with Ghost in the Noonday Sun. And this movie is mostly just kind of bashing Peter Sellers and just how incredibly hard it was to work with him. That's a good half of this documentary, which only runs about 90 minutes, was about that. And I'm like, it's like there's a lot you can tell with this director. These wounds, personal wounds that he felt during the making of that movie, have been with him for like 45 years. Like you could tell he's still never gotten over that at all. Um, it's very kind of it's more interesting on that perspective, on a personal, perspective, than I think it is anything else. But yeah, so this is what this documentary is about. The Ghost of Peter Sellers. Check it out if you're into documentaries about making movies, because you'll be fascinated by it. So for special features, there's an audio interview with director Peter Medak. The Ghost Inside the Scrapbook. Peter Medak presents his production albums from the ruling class through Zorro, The Gay Blade, Love Left the Masquerade, Peter Medak's Cinema of Pretenders video essay by filmmaker Daniel Kramer. So after I saw The Ghost of Peter Sellers, I watched his movie Negatives, which Severin is releasing here on Blu-ray. So Negatives is actually his feature premiere. Came out in 1968. And it's a fascinating kind of surreal movie. With this feature film directorial debut, Hungarian emigre Peter Medak created a provocative UK classic and launched one of the most unique careers in cinema history. When a young couple, when a young couple, let's see, grows bored with their kinky role play games, they invite an uninhibited photographer and to come between them. Yeah. Maurice Denham co-stars in this groundbreaking 1968 drama that leaves nothing to the imagination, now scanned in 4K from the original camera negative by the British Film Institute. Also included is a bonus disc of the magnificent 1963 comedy Sparrows Can't Swing, starring James Booth and Barbara Windsor. Yeah, that movie doesn't have anything to do with Peter Medak. I don't know why it's kind of in there. But that's on the second disc. So the first disc is this movie Negatives. New 4K restoration of the film, audio interview with director Peter Medak, audio commentary with video watchdogs Tim Lucas, role-playing interview with actor Peter McHenry, Glenda Jackson, Working Class Wonderland video essay by Lee Gambin, the late great Lee Gambin. It's nice to see his work is still coming out. A year after he passed, actually. Yeah, I believe it was the 1 year anniversary of his passing recently. Positives from Negative Land. Peter Medak presents his production albums from Negatives through a day in the death of Joe Egg. Interesting. So, this movie Negatives, you have this married couple who is, they have a tumultuous relationship. They can only interact with each other through like these role-playing sexual fantasies where they will become different characters and they will interact with one another. That's kind of the only way they can interact with one another on a civil, like, nice accord. When they're just their normal selves, they just fight. They bicker, they go at each other. They're just, I don't know why they're married, to be honest, but they just don't like each other at all. And then one day, this kind of they take in a photographer, a woman, and this woman gets in the middle of their relationship, and things kind of get even more tumultuously weird after that. Like I said, this movie gets rather surreal, gets rather weird. Interesting movie. And that's the movie Negatives. And then we have something that's completely different. We have the movie The Odd Job. So, in 1978, it's a 1978 black comedy from director Peter Medak, starring Graham Chapman, who is from Monty Python fame. He's from Monty Python fame. He had just done the Life of Brian. Before that, they did probably the most famous Monty Python film in The Holy Grail. So he starts as a happily married Arthur Harris who becomes suicidal when his wife suddenly leaves him. Unable to complete the task himself, he asks a strange handyman, you know, to kill him instead. But when Arthur's wife comes back, he discovers that his homicidal hire has every intention of finishing the job. So what you get here is a dark black comedy of like almost Monty Python-ish levels of hilarity at times. At times. So you have this guy, Arthur Harris, portrayed by Graham Chapman. His wife like leaves him out of the blue, and he just like can't stand it. And he's like, okay, I'm going to, end it. But but I can't do it. But so randomly, this handyman guy shows up on his doorstep asking, "Hey, do you have any odd jobs I can do for money or whatnot?" And the guy's like, "Oh, yeah, I do." So he hires him to do the job, and the guy's like, "Okay, I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it when you least expect it. I'm gonna do it randomly, um, and painlessly and all that kind of stuff." So what ends up happening is the wife comes back, but he has no way of contacting the guy. He doesn't know the guy's name. He doesn't know where he is. But what ends up happening is the guy still kind of complete the job. And the way he keeps doing it is he keeps messing up and he keeps accidentally getting rid of other people. And it's not supposed to be funny, but that's the black comedy of it all. Is he keeps accidentally getting rid of other people when he's supposed to be doing Graham Chapman in. And that's the situational comedy of it all. And at times, this movie can be very funny. Like Graham Chapman is channeling like Monty Python comedy, and it's really funny. But the movie as a whole is not particularly great. It's just like good in certain situations. Like when the comedy works, it works, and when it doesn't, it doesn't. But I enjoyed myself watching it. It's a rather breezy type of comedy. Uh, so that's The Odd Job. Let's see what we got for special features, and then we'll move on to the Mario Bava box set that Shout Factory is putting out. So for The Odd Job, we got a new 2K restoration from a 35mm print, introduction by director Peter Medak, audio commentary by Peter Medak, The Odd Job Men, Zoom reunion between star Sir David Jason and Peter Medak, The Unusual Work interview with writer Bernard McKenna, producer and Odd Job interview with co-producer Mark Forstetter, The Odd Batch interview with actor Richard O'Brien, The Naughty Neighbor interview with actress Carolyn Seymour, and Most Peculiar Craft interview with actor Simon Williams. This is region free. That's kind of cool. They don't really specify the regions on the other ones. Oh, The Ghost of Peter Sellers is region free as well. So that is it from Severin for August. Severin has a box set, High Tension, 4 films by Lamberto Bava, The Odd Job, The Ghost of Peter Sellers, and Negatives, all directed by Peter Medak. And yeah, that is it for Severin. So moving on now over to the Mario Bava box set from Shout Factory. It says Shout Factory exclusive / limited edition of 2,500 copies. I'm assuming that's the one with like it comes with like a poster and stuff like that. So we have 12 movies, 14 cuts, 12 disc set, and the movies are Black Sunday, The Girl Who Knew Too Much, Black Sabbath, Kill Baby Kill, The Knives of the Avenger, $5 for an August Moon, Roy Colt and Winchester Jack, Four Times That Night, A Bay of Blood, Baron Blood, Lisa and the Devil, and Kidnapped. So if I would have to do the research on this, let me do it quickly. There is a Mario Bava box set from Arrow that was released a while ago called Macabre Visions: The Films of Mario Bava, and that was 9 movies, and that contained, I think that contains, that contains all of these. Yeah, that contains all of these plus Lust of the Vampire, which this box set does not contain. And this box set came out in 2019 from Arrow, and I believe this contained several of their releases. Actually, I think all of their individual releases they had put out on Blu-ray previously to the release of this box set. So the reason why I'm mentioning all of this is one of the biggest contentions that I saw in the comment section when this box set was announced, the one from Shout Factory, the Mario Bava collection, is these do not contain the commentaries from Tim Lucas. Tim Lucas, who is a Giallo expert, he's written a book about Giallo films and stuff like that. Those Arrow releases, I believe, contained commentaries from him. So people are very upset that these do not carry those over. Understandably so, because that's probably been the standard now for many years. I know many collectors have these Mario Bava films already, whether it be through Arrow, whether it be through Kino's put out a couple of these as well. And I believe those contained the Tim Lucas commentary. I want to make sure I'm getting the right person here because I don't want to be saying stuff out of turn. Let's see. Yeah. Yes, it is Tim Lucas. I want to make sure I got the right name. Sometimes these names kind of jumble up in my head of the people we talk about all of the time on various special features. So people were very upset, and we don't know what the transfers are going to look like for this box set yet. Let me go actually to the Shout Factory website to see if they say anything else about this. Let's see. Because I know the Blu-ray.com. I don't think the Blu-ray.com said anything about it as well. Let's see. Move. Okay. Where are you? Let's see. Where are you, Mario Bava box set? Let me find you again. Let's see. I want to see if they announce anything in terms of it's frustrating a little bit because you are getting actually a lot of new stuff. You are getting new special features on each release from them, including new commentaries. Wow, there's a new commentary with Tracy Letts on one of these, the writer and actor. Tracy Letts. I think Tracy Letts, $5 for an August Moon. Tracy Letts does a commentary for it. That's fascinating. Yeah, and for Bay of Blood, there's 4 new audio commentaries. Jeez. There's 3 new audio commentaries for Lisa and the Devil and the House. Yeah, Lisa and the Devil. Interesting. So there is new stuff. So there is new special features. Now, what will the transfers be looking like? This is also not a 4K box set. This is just a Blu-ray box set. I know a lot of people were upset about that. I can kind of understand why. Cost-wise, a 4K box set of 12 movies for them to do would be rather expensive, and for us to buy would be rather expensive. I understand cost-wise. I understand that entirely. But I gotta let me go to their website. Let's see. Oh, they're having a hammer sale. That's good to know. I did get that email the other day. They're having a hammer sale on one of their Hammer titles. Yeah, there's nothing left. There's nothing announced yet in terms of if the transfers are new. That's what I'm curious about. I know we're getting new special features in terms of commentaries, but I don't know if we're getting new transfers. That's the one thing I want to check on. So back to what I was saying. Um, Lamberto Bava box set, Mario Bava box set, but some a little discrepancy in what people have probably already have in their collection versus what is coming out is these do not have the Tim Lucas commentaries. But these do have brand new commentaries. Wow, up the wazoo. For example, Black Sunday, which is the international version. I should specify that. Um, which has 4 audio commentaries. Wow, 4 new ones actually. I would also want to specify that yeah, Black Sunday is the international version. The Girl Who Knew Too Much has both. It's both The Girl Who Knew Too Much, which is the Italian version, international version, and The Evil Eye, which is the recut American version of the movie. So for those of you who don't know, and then Black Sabbath is the international version as well. So, for those of you who don't know this, when Mario Bava's films, several Mario Bava's films were brought over to the United States, they were bought for distribution or theatrical distribution by AIP, American International Pictures, which was Roger Corman's company in the 60s. And when they brought them over, they had to edit the movies. Basically, they had to edit them down. They had to take certain scenes out. Sometimes they added certain things in, basically to get it by American censors so they could put it in the theaters. And that's why we have the AIP cut of some of these films. And so sometimes their original cuts were not seen for some years later. Nowadays, of course, you can watch either version of it. That's why when you're streaming them online, pay attention to the different versions because I know that Shudder is streaming a lot of these, but they're doing the American releases versus the international releases. Sometimes they can be different. You know what I mean? They're taking out scenes, they're adding in dialogue, and that can change things. For example, I think The Girl Who Knew Too Much and what's it called? I was just saying it. Um, the Evil Eye apparently are like radically different. Not radically, but they're different. Like the Evil Eye is more comedic as opposed to The Girl Who Knew Too Much, which is more serious. Coincidentally, The Girl Who Knew Too Much, which I did get to watch actually, uh, Mario Bava takes so much from Alfred Hitchcock, and it's basically his version of an Alfred Hitchcock film. He takes so much of like Alfred Hitchcock type of stuff and puts it in this movie. Literally, the title, "The Girl Who Knew Too Much," "The Man Who Knew Too Much," which Alfred Hitchcock did twice. He did the one in the 30s, and then he remade it in the 50s with Jimmy Stewart. So it's like definite direct correlation there. Yeah, heck, the plot is like The Man Who Knew Too Much. It's like Rear Window. It's similar to stuff like that. It's really it's rather interesting. But this does contain all of his kind of like classic stuff, like Bay of Blood and Black Sabbath, um, and stuff like that. So I just want to make people aware that that's coming. You know what, Adam Schofield, you're right. Let's see. Adam Schofield says, I have the Arrow box set better lineup. Yeah, it has less movies, but but you're probably right. You probably know better than I do. I'll be honest with all of you. I'm very much a Mario Bava novice. I only like tangentially know his work and stuff like that. I know of him. I know his importance when it comes to the horror genre and filmmaking history in general, but I'm only like slowly getting into his stuff in part because I want to buy his stuff, but I'm not sure which editions to get quite yet. That's why I like your comment here, Adam Schofield. I want Arrow to release these on 4K, maybe in parts, say 4 films each set with blood and black lace, um, shock, etc. That's another thing here. So, with the way in which we've seen Arrow kind of go with their releases, the trend with Arrow is they've been re-releasing a lot of their stuff in 4K. Um, so you may want to wait to see if they do Mario Bava. Because like you just mentioned, Blood and Black Lace got a 4K re-release. There you go. So the precedent has already been set for a giallo film put out by Arrow on Blu-ray to get a 4K release. Now, I don't see them doing this with everything, although didn't they do that with just with the movie um was it Don't Torture a Duckling? Which I don't know if that's let's see. Yeah, Don't Torture a Duckling just got a 4K release. Which I see those of you out there who are much better versed in giallo than I am, I need you all to help me because I don't know specifically what's considered giallo and what's not. Sometimes things are referred to giallo and they're not giallo, and sometimes they are. So, for example, Suspiria for me, I've heard is not considered a giallo film, but it's made by someone who has typically done giallo films. So that's why it's confusing to me. So for is Don't Torture a Duckling a giallo film? I believe it is because I think it was in those giallo one of those giallo box sets from Arrow. So that's even more precedent that Arrow has put out, giallo on both Blu-ray and then re-released it in 4K. So you could see that. That's why Adam, I like where you're going with this. Um, he also says the girl who knew too much is an early giallo. Duckling is giallo. Thank you. Yeah, the girl who knew too much, definitely giallo. To me, when it comes to giallo, it always revolves around murder. There's a murder that happens, and there's a mystery around the murder. That's typically giallo. I'm thinking of like opera, Blood and Black Lace. You know what I mean? I've got my Argento stuff over there, like Deep Red, and whatnot. Was it Bird with Crystal Plumage? That's another one. Cat o' Nine Tails. Yeah, I'm looking at my Arrow stuff right there because right along this wall here, which you guys can't see, is all my horror stuff, and so I often look over it for reference. I still need to get Tenebrae, and the reason why I'm waiting is I wanted to get the Arrow store exclusive Tenebrae with the original poster art cover because I got the original poster art cover for all of the other ones. So I wanted to, make them all, all line up together. So I'm waiting on that. I'm waiting to track that down. It's impossible to find now. Even on eBay, you can't find it. Yeah, and Adam Schofield says Giallo doesn't really have supernatural elements, though. There are some examples. That's the one thing that threw me off a little bit. Is I always kind of thought Giallo could have supernatural elements, but they typically don't. That's a different type of, different type of thing going on. Different type of horror genre, subgenre, if you will. So I've been slowly learning that over the years as I've gotten more and more into Giallo and all of that stuff. But yeah, I didn't even think of that when this was announced that that we could possibly be getting Arrow versions of these movies. I mean, we already have, but I meant like 4Ks. So I would wait on that. Yeah, I would definitely wait on that. So moving on from there, let's see. We did Severin, we did Shao, we did Eureka. Let me quickly go over to Kino because I don't have much actually left to talk about this week. We got Kino, Criterion, couple of individual releases, and then Vinegar Syndrome. Like I said, announced the rest of their mystery titles, if you will. I want to hit on those. So let's go over to Kino. Kino didn't have much in the last 2 weeks. I'll be honest with you guys. A lot of it was stuff we had already talked about in the past that was just getting like final details, like release dates, as well as all that stuff. If you are on Facebook, there is a Chasing Labels Facebook group, and I just posted Kino's entire release schedule for August. So let me actually see what the title of that group is. now that I think about it, let me go over to Facebook and tell you guys about that. So yeah, there is it's called Chasing Labels, a film collectors podcast. And you have to like ask for permission to get in, but I'll let you in. It's a private group, about 145 members. But the reason why I wanted to make sure to mention that is, I did just share that the August the August schedule for Kino releases I posted on there. So it's all stuff we've talked about before. Things like Convoy that we've talked about before is getting a release. The 1949 adaptation of The Great Gatsby, Coneheads, Happy Gilmore, um, um, The Vengeance of Dr. Mabuse, The Two Jakes, which is the sequel to Chinatown, which is getting a 4K release. That's coming out in August as well. Um, yeah, so all of that is posted on there. So if you guys are over on Facebook, if you're not, then what does it matter? Yeah, but let me go to yes, Kino. So Kino has a couple of announcements, but not much. Coming soon is another Jean-Paul Belmondo film. So this is coming soon on Blu-ray, 2021 4K restoration by Studio Canal. It's called A Man Called Rocca from 1961, early Jean-Paul Belmondo. For example, I believe this is the same year that Breathless came out. So if you think of what Jean-Paul Belmondo looked like in Breathless, he looks like this in this movie called A Man Called Rocca. I watched this last night. Interesting movie. Unfortunately, like the second half of the movie is I'll get into it. First of all, so what happens is Jean-Paul Belmondo plays this ex-gangster. He's an ex-gangster, and he hears about his friend who got framed for some type of crime, and he's gonna go to prison. So he decides to go and basically investigate, hey, what the heck happened and all that kind of stuff, and also investigate, um, you know, the circumstances of the situation and whatnot. So he goes and he decides that he's going to basically infiltrate this other guy's gang, and he does so, and he ends up killing the head of this gang and taking over this gang, this local like organized crime gang that they're into, like, they run like a gambling shop and all kinds of stuff. So he's kind of like a badass in this, and he does so. But what ends up happening is he ends up going to due to something that goes on. He ends up going to prison. He ends up at the same prison that his friend is in. And then the movie radically changes. So the first half of this movie, Jean-Paul Belmondo, ex-gangster, badass guy, takes over this gang. Second half of this movie takes place in prison, and completely different tone, completely different feel. The pacing of the movie hits a brick wall, and yeah, it feels like two different movies. It feels like two completely different movies, and I was so kind of surprised by that, and not so much in a pleasant way, because it made the second half of this movie really languish, and it was not a long movie, about an hour and 45 minutes or so. Um, but yeah, that's A Man Called Rocca, starring Jean-Paul Belmondo. But after that, it looks like um, another coming soon announcement, and that is Nacho Libre is getting a 4K UHD release. Um, and this is the 2006 film starring Jack Black, where he is. Oh goodness, I haven't seen this movie in forever. Doesn't he work in like a mission in Mexico, and he gets caught up in being like a lucha libre wrestler? I think that's the premise of it. It's been so many years since I've seen it. I remember when it came out. It was one of those mid 2000s Jack Black comedies. This would have been after he had done Shallow Hal, after he had done um, A School of Rock. This would have been, yeah, in that time frame. I think it was, yeah, it was interesting. And yeah, I don't even know if I have this movie. I'm looking at my comedies as well, and no, I don't have Nacho Libre because I'm looking at my ends because I have them in alphabetical order. I'm looking at my ends right now, and it goes from like it goes from like the Muppet movie, My Cousin Vinny, to the Nice Guys. So obviously, in between there, that's where Nacho Libre would be. So it's not there. Speaking of which, the Nice Guys that release from Second Sight is coming out soon. I can't wait for that. Um, let's see. So some other comments here as well. Random. Adam Schofield says Suspiria is more of a horror fairy tale. Very true. Um, Adam Schofield says Bava is very hot at the moment, so Arrow will jump on that almost for sure. Yeah, yeah, that does make sense. That does make sense. So Nacho Libre getting a release. It just says coming soon, so it could be this year, could be next year, not really sure. That's Nacho Libre. I know it's a favorite amongst my generation, amongst millennials, because 2006, I would have been 19 years old. So it feels like my generation is right smack in there. Uh, the movie Curdled, which we've talked about, this kind of psychosexual film that was presented by Quentin Tarantino, is coming out on July 29th. First disc is a 4K UHD. The second disc is a Blu-ray. We're getting a new audio commentary by actress Angela Jones, co-writer slash director Reb Braddock, and co-writer John Massa. An audio commentary by film historian and author Dwayne Epstein. Another audio commentary by Reb Braddock and co-writer John Moss. Did I say Massa before? It's Moss. And then the second disc, which is the Blu-ray, has all of that plus an intro by executive producer Quentin Tarantino. Oh, intro and outro. Oh, that's kind of cool. I talked about this movie when it was announced, so um, we don't really need to go over it. It stars William Baldwin, who is like a seductive mass murderer, and basically what happens is this woman Gabriella, who's portrayed by Angela Jones, um, is she cleans up crime scenes, but she was like obsessed with like true crime and obsessed with like serial killers. And what happens is she's in the house one time. No, he gets trapped in the house while she's cleaning, and they end up interacting with one another. And she ends up figuring out who he is. Um, it's in this like psychosexual tension and interaction goes on. Yeah, I thought it was rather interesting actually. Exclusive we talked about last time, starring Fred McMurray and Francis Farmer. That's coming out July 15th. It's got a new audio comedy by professor and film scholar Jason A. Ney and Francis Farmer expert Jeffrey Kaufman. That's it. Um, then we got another Jean-Paul Belmondo film. This one's from 1984. It just says coming soon on Blu-ray. Let me go get the. I don't know where I'm going to go for this. Let me go get the synopsis for this film because it doesn't give me one. But the poster art for this is kind of crazy. The movie's called The Vultures. It came out in 1983, 1984. It says April 5th, 1943, a battalion of the Foreign Legion arrived in El Soir, Tunisia, to escort a fortune in gold bars to the home front. A German ambush awaits and all but four die. Thanks to the street smarts of Sergeant Augagneur, the Legionnaires successfully counterattack. The bank manager and his seductive wife arrive, and so does a German lieutenant, whom the French arrest. Augagneur wants to steal the gold. Warrant officer Mahjong wants to do his duty. A series of alliances form and break apart. The group dwindles in number, and the gold heads south toward Betoa. But in whose possession? Yeah, but in whose possession? But the cover art for this is an incredibly muscled and just built and jacked Jean-Paul Belmondo with a machine gun. That is literally the poster for this movie. I guess you can't sell it any better than that. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. Speaking of fascinating, speaking of muscle-bound people, we have another Charles Bronson film is getting a 4K release. So last time we talked about Death Wish 3. Now we're talking about The Mechanic from 1972, starring Charles Bronson. Coming soon on 4K UHD, brand new HDR/DV master. Directed by Michael Winner, who did Chato's Lamb, The Stone Killer, Death Wish 1, 2, and 3. This I have seen. The Mechanic, starring Charles Bronson. So let's see. Let me get the premise of this. So yeah. So The Mechanic. Arthur Bishop is a veteran hitman who owing to his penchant for making his target's deaths seem a little like accidents, thinks himself an artist. It's made him very rich, but as he hits middle age, he's so depressed and lonely that he takes on one of his victims' sons, Steve McKenna, as his apprentice. Arthur puts him through a rigorous training period and brings him on several hits. As Stephen improves, Arthur worries that he'll discover who killed his father. Uh-oh. So that's the premise of The Mechanic, starring the great Charles Bronson. Yeah, I gotta start getting. There's so much Charles Bronson. I gotta start getting some of these and adding them to my collection. They've released some stuff. Kino has, as well as Indicator has released some Charles Bronson stuff as well. Of course, Death Wish 2 got a 4K release from Vinegar Syndrome, I believe. But now switching gears massively, entirely, totally, something that was announced today, or this morning rather, is a Woody Allen film, and this is the movie Scoop. The movie Scoop, which stars Scarlett Johansson as well as Hugh Jackman. Ian McShane is in this film as well. Woody Allen stars in the movie too, as he did in many of his own films. Written, directed by Woody Allen, as pretty much every single film he ever did was. This is a movie that I've seen several times. I've owned it on DVD. This is one I think of 3 collaborations between Woody Allen and Scarlett Johansson. The film he did right before this was Match Point, which I think is one of his better films. It really is. And then he did the movie Vicky Cristina Barcelona. That was also starring Scarlett Johansson as well. Another one of his better films. Match Point and Vicky Cristina Barcelona, 2 of his better films in terms of his output in the last 20 or so years. Actually, it is the 20th anniversary of Match Point. Interesting. So let's see. Scoop, if I remember correctly, Scarlett Johansson goes undercover. Let's see. An American journalist student in London scoops a big story and begins an affair with an aristocrat as the incident unfurls. It's kind of the premise. Let me see if I can get a better synopsis here on Letterboxd. That was the one that was on IMDb, and sometimes those are not great. This film came out in 2006. An American journalist student in London scoops a big story and begins an affair with an aristocrat as the incident unfurls. Yeah, that's the general premise. Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time. But I know the way people feel about Woody Allen now is vastly different than the way it was 20 or so years ago and even earlier. But I do want to make people aware that this film is getting a re-release. I wanted to see if it had gotten a Blu-ray release before. It had not, because I know several of his movies had. It did get a Blu-ray release in other countries. Australia in 2009, France in 2008. I think that's Spain in 2021 and 2012. So it's been around the world, but no US release, no UK release for the movie. It's one of his lesser films, I would say. What's interesting is it looks like it was a Focus Features film. So Universal would have the rights to it. That explains why Kino is getting it. For years, Twilight Time was putting out a lot of Woody Allen films on Blu-ray. And obviously when Twilight Time no longer kind of was really a robust company, a lot of those rights kind of went, scattered. And I know a lot of those films were MGM films. A lot of Woody Allen's films from the 70s and 80s and into the 90s were MGM films. I didn't know where they ended up. But it looks like Scoop was Focus Features, which, like I said, is a subsidiary. It's like Universal's indie label, if you will. It's like every major studio has an indie label, and Focus Features is the one for Universal. Sony Pictures Classics is the one for Sony. I mean, a little obvious there. Fox Searchlight used to be the one for Fox. Obviously, Fox got swallowed up by Disney, and now it's just called Searchlight Pictures. So it still exists. Probably nowhere near in the same capacity as it was before. You know what I'm saying? It's unfortunate Um, I want to say for Paramount, I forgot who Paramount's indie label was. Was it Annapurna? Maybe. I'm not sure. Let's see. Adam Schofield says Broadway Danny Rose is a favorite, but many great films. I can separate all of that from the artist. Play It Again, Sam, Sleeper, so many classics. I've said this before on Chasing Labels. I understand people. I, I'm with them. I understand people not wanting to support him, not wanting to buy his films, not wanting to watch his films, not wanting to comment on his films, all of that kind of stuff. You can honestly do whatever you would like. Um, you know, of course, I mean, I've kind of adopted that pretty much myself. Like I haven't bought a Woody Allen film in many, many, many years. Um, I don't think I've bought one since the one he did with Kate Blanchett, which I thought was actually really fantastic. Blue Jasmine, that's the movie Blue Jasmine. I think that was Quentin. I think that was like his last great film, really. Um, so I understand people not wanting to associate with him, not give him any support at all. Understand that entirely. I will also say this, just like kind of mind a little objective flip side. You can learn a lot about filmmaking, about writing, about comedy by watching Woody Allen films. That's how I learned a lot, was by watching Woody Allen films when it came to filmmaking and things like that. What's interesting about Woody Allen's films is when you look at them and break them down from like a production standpoint, they're rather simple. He makes filmmaking rather simple and really hinges on the script being what carries the movie, which not a lot of directors do. Especially in the modern day sense of things, film is pretty much carried by the visual aspect of it all. You know what I'm saying? But with Woody Allen films, it's all about the screenplay. Like that's kind of what carried his movies. And yes, you can learn a lot from his films. I'm not saying go out and watch them, but I say I learned a lot from watching his stuff over the years. But like you said, Broadway Danny Rose, super underrated. I do agree there. Sleeper as well. It was super funny. Obviously you had, Annie Hall, Manhattan, geez, so many other films. Like there were times there where he came out with a movie every single year, pretty much every single year. Um, Midnight in Paris. I remember when Midnight in Paris came out. I was really enchanted by that movie. Owen Wilson, I believe Rachel McAdams. Um, oh, what's her name? Is in that. Oh, what a cast in that film. Jeez. Midnight in Paris. It's when Owen Wilson goes back in time to like the early 20th century and meets like all of these famous people, like these famous writers and stuff. Like Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald. Let's see. Marion Cotillard, I believe. Yeah, I think it was Marion Cotillard who he met when going back in time. And what was so odd, what was so interesting about that movie is that Owen Wilson's character like yearned for that time frame, the early 20th century, the Roaring 20s, basically the Great Gatsby era of life. But the Marion Cotillard character who lived during that time yearned for the previous age. She yearned for the Belle Epoque, which was like the late 19th century. So what's interesting is that like we're always yearning for something that other people have, but they're always yearning for something else. You know what I mean? So no one's ever really truly satisfied about the world in which they live in. It's very, very kind of fascinating stuff. But um yeah, I remember Michael Sheen was in the movie. Um Let me see who else was in there. There was this was the one where Adrian Brody played Salvador Dali, and he's in one scene, and it's like super iconic. He played yeah, he and then you had Corey Stoll played I think Hemingway. Yeah, he played Ernest Hemingway, and he was great in the movie. Alison Pill was Zelda Fitzgerald. You had oh yeah, it's a movie that if you know like classic literature and you'll appreciate. Oh man. Um yeah, I'll say Adam Schofield says Midnight in Paris could be his last great film. I believe he won an Oscar for that, if I do recall. For me, Blue Jasmine, like I said, Blue Jasmine was because Blue Jasmine to me was Woody Allen remaking one of my favorite plays ever in A Streetcar Named Desire. Like it felt really much like he was remaking A Streetcar Named Desire, uh, with um Kate Blanchett as Blanche Dubois, and that's kind of what that's what I felt like. So maybe I'm a little biased there. Adam Schofield says the man is almost 90. I don't think there are more films coming from him. Um, I mean, he's been making movies; they just don't get distributed here anymore. They typically get distributed in Europe if he does make them. Um, for the reasons we all know. For reasons we all know. No studio here will touch his films anymore. Um, so yeah, that's Scoop. For anyone interested in kind of a somewhat lesser Woody Allen film that's making its Blu-ray debut at some point in the future, there you go. There you go. Um, what else do we've got here? So I do want to go to and then I'll hit the individual ones, then Criterion, then Vinegar Syndrome. That's how we'll close things out. So hopefully, I do get under the 4 hour mark. That's my goal, is to hit under 4 hours. Because the 4 hour podcast streams are taking a lot out of me. So yeah, so that was it for Kino. Individual releases. Here we go. Let me go over to pull some of these up. First up here, and it's a doozy. It's a doozy. The documentary Hearts of Darkness is getting a 4K collector's edition release from Studio Canal. So it's going to be probably one of these thick box set collector's editions, a la they did for The Conversation, that they did for the Third Man, probably something like this. Let me make sure it's presentable. So obviously, here's my edition of The Conversation. I have my edition of The Third Man here as well. So it's probably going to be something like this, but for Hearts of Darkness. Now, for those of you who don't know what Hearts of Darkness is, it is the making of documentary for Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now. And some people, many people, believe it to be even better than Apocalypse Now. The reason being is, like I said earlier, it's a documentary about movie making, but it's also a documentary about the trials of movie making. The making of Apocalypse Now was insane. Talk about Coppola lost his mind shooting over there because of all of the stuff he had to go through when it came to shooting there in during the rain season and all his equipment being washed away in the rain and sets and stuff like that, or whether it be Martin Sheen having a heart attack during production, whether it be Marlon Brando showing up like so vastly overweight, not knowing any of his lines whatsoever, probably never read the script. When you've got Dennis Hopper, who was heavily on it, on dealing with his drug addiction and stuff like that. He was probably high out of his mind making that movie. I remember, if you watch the making of um Wim Wenders film The American Friend, Dennis Hopper came from making Apocalypse Now to going to make The American Friend, and Wim Wenders basically had to like get him to go to rehab to like clean him up to be able to make The American Friend, because he was just so out of it. And Wim Wenders has talked about that so many times. So Heart of Darkness is insane. And Heart of Darkness, like Adam Schofield says, Hearts of Darkness is a better version of the Conrad. Yeah, of the Conrad. So it's yeah, so Hearts of Darkness, yeah, it's the title, I think, is from the Conrad not yeah, the novel, right? Yeah, Hearts of Darkness novel. Let me look this up. Forgot who it's Joseph Conrad. Yeah. I almost said Hearts of Darkness. It's a cool title in general. Let's see. Ba-ba-bum. Yeah, directed by this was a documentary was begun by Coppola's wife, Eleanor Coppola, who narrates behind the scenes footage. Um, Yeah, he basically took all of that information and, like, gave it to, like, these 2 young filmmakers to, like, turn it into a documentary. It premiered at the 1991 Cannes Film Festival. Coincidentally, the Cannes Film Festival just ended, um, recently, this year's. So the title is derived from the Joseph Conrad in 1899 novella Hearts of Darkness, which I still need to read. I've had friends who've read it. I need to read it because I just feel like you can just hold that over people being, yeah, I've read Hearts of Darkness. To be quite honest with a lot of you out there, when it comes to reading classic literature, half of the reason is that you can tell people you've read it. It's just so you can like be cool. Be like, oh yeah, I've read War and Peace. Oh yeah, I've read the Brothers Karamazov. Oh yeah, I've read, Don Quixote. You know what I mean? But to me, I've been a lifelong reader in general, so that partially the truth. But um, let's see. Let's see. Adam Schofield says, I think Coppola kind of willed it that way. The making should be like the book as well. Yeah, it's what he went through to make that movie is just incredible. Um, yeah, it's interesting because because Hearts of Darkness is it's it's loosely an inspiration for Apocalypse Now as well. Um, Yeah, but the Hearts of Darkness, I believe, takes place in Africa. This takes place in the South Pacific. It's both dealing with um the idea of colonialism and stuff like that, European colonialism specifically. That's why there is a part of the movie that was cut out of the theatrical release that is that you see like that you see a whole like European like family estate, and it's supposed to represent European colonialism in Vietnam. A lot of people don't know this because no one pays attention to history anymore. Um, Vietnam was like French Polynesia. Like it was a French colony, and there was a whole war of independence fought before the Vietnam War that we all know about, for Vietnamese independence from European colonialism. A lot of stuff post World War II was a lot of like the decolonization of the colonized world. Oh, I'm talking about like in Africa, in Southeast Asia, and places like that, India, of course, as well. The whole heck, that's what Mahatma Gandhi, that's what all that was about protesting against British rule, because India had been a British colony for a long time. So Apocalypse Now is dealing with all of those things, and it's also a war movie, but it's also a drama. It's also so many different things. To me, Apocalypse Now is one of the greatest films ever made, just from its sheer brilliance and weight of it all. The production, the themes that are in it. When you get to that third act, and Marlon Brando is on another universe in that movie. I think he thought he was on another plane of existence, because you can tell that he's just making shit up as he's going. And I don't think Coppola had any sense of being able to control Marlon Brando on that movie, because he just couldn't. And I think he just had to work with what he had. And what he ended up working with ended up being brilliant. Just by happenstance. Just by happenstance. Um Adam Schofield says, I like when war films entertain surreal imagery. The film is a journey into madness, and it really is. That whole third, like I said, that third act is when you reach the fever pitch of madness. The deeper you get into that jungle, the deeper you go into it, the more and more insane things become. It reminds me like Aguirre, The Wrath of God, the Werner Herzog film. The deeper they went into that South American jungle, the crazier Klaus Kinski got. And yeah, it reminded me a lot of that. Oh, excuse me. So, Hearts of Darkness, like I said, is getting its own 4K collector's edition um, um, from Studio Canal, similar to probably what we've gotten, like I said, with The Conversation, with The Third Man, probably a big thick box like that. Um, and let's see what we got here for special features. Oh, it didn't list the special features. I gotta go find it. Hold on. Oh, there we go. It looks like 4K UHD collector's edition includes 64-page booklet with brand new essays, 2 posters, exclusive edition of Eleanor Coppola's notes book. That's kind of cool. Disc extras include the feature film in UHD, the feature film on Blu-ray, The Making of Hearts of Darkness, Eleanor Coppola, Art is All Around Us, Eleanor and Francis Coppola audio commentary. That's fascinating. Peeling a Potato is a work of art. 1976 Eleanor Coppola short. Victorian House, 1976, and another Eleanor Coppola short. Joyce Goldstein, another Eleanor Coppola short. Refrigerator, 1976, Eleanor Coppola short. Coda, Eleanor Coppola introduction, Coda, 30 years later, and that was from 2007. Hold on, let me make sure I got this right. Let me go to, so that's what I saw on the forum on Blu-ray.com. Let me go over to Studio Canal's Facebook page to see if there's anything there. Oh, first thing that pops up. It's the first thing. It's the first thing that pops up. Let's see. Let me go back actually because it's not popping up on here. They're just giving me, because Studio Canal is also a movie studio. You often, if you go to their like social media pages, you get just like movie trailers and stuff like that. But from our buddy over at Disconnected, Brian, he's got a post for it, and it's all the stuff I just said. Okay, I just want to double check because you never know with Blu-ray.com forums, people could just write stuff in. So I want to make sure that those were indeed the extras, and they are. I'm excited about it. I didn't know, because I know that Hearts of Darkness has forever been an extra when it comes to getting Apocalypse Now. For example, both the Blu-ray and I think the 4K release, at least that we've got here, come with Hearts of Darkness, like on on its own disc. So I already have it. So I didn't know if this was necessary. I don't know if this is a necessary buy for many if they already own it since they have Apocalypse Now. They kind of go hand in hand. Let me see. Adam Schofield says, I wonder if Coppola watched Aguirre. Of course he did. He's kind of a cinephile. I would assume so. Like I mentioned, I don't know, Adam, if you were here earlier. I mentioned Dorothy Arzner because I recently got Honor Among Lovers. And I mentioned that Coppola was a student of Dorothy Arzner at UCLA, and he did his own where he talked about her when he was in the Criterion closet. He talked about her in a special feature on Dance Girl Dance for the Criterion release. So he's like a cinephile, definitely. Yeah, so that is Hearts of Darkness. Some other stuff I want to talk about here. There's 2 Deaf Crocodile releases. Let me go over to Deaf Crocodile. Actually, I may just go to their website. Yeah, I'll go to their website. It's so much easier to go to their website. Uh-oh. Let me see. Let me go to their Deaf Crocodile. Actually, let me Google it. Because it looks like they moved their website. Yep. Here we are. So Deaf Crocodile, they announced 2 things. One is a box set. It's a box set of stuff they've already released before. It's a re-release of a box set. It's a re-release of a box set with new artwork, which you don't really see. So, it's the Alexander Tushko Fantastica box set. Let's see. A new box with a new design by Beth Morris using the stunning paintings of Tony Stella. This box set contains Ilya Muromets, Sampo, The Tale of Tsar Sultan, and Ruslan and Ludmila in new Scanavo cases, shipping in June. And so I want to make sure to mention that. It'd be nice if they had. Yeah, and these are all. They're gonna make me click on them. Yeah, they're gonna make me click on them. So yeah, Ilya Muromets, I think was like their first ever release. Sampo, I think was like their second release. Um, yeah, these are all like these were like legendary fantasy Russian films by Alexander Tushko. And these, I remember we talked about these so long ago. This was before they were even a a um a partner label at Vinegar Syndrome. They had announced these. Yeah, Alexander Tushko. Yeah, he directed Sampo as well. I just want to see. So these are just basically all individual releases in the box. So you get all the special features that were on each individual release in that box. Because they had released this in a box before, which has long been sold out. You can find it on eBay for super expensive amounts of money, um, which I never wanted to do. I always wanted to get them individually. Yeah, I'm just looking at the box set. Yeah, just all of them individually. Yep. Yeah, I'm clicking on each of them. Okay. Want to make sure I wasn't missing out on anything, and I'm not. So, yeah, Alexander Tushko, Fantastica box set, Ilya Muromets, Sampo, The Tale of Tsar Sultan, and Ruslan and Ludmilla. And yeah, these are all like Scandinavian fantasy types of movies. Um, yeah, some of them are Russian fantasy, some of them are from Finland. Okay. Yeah, and then there's another Deaf Crocodile release I want to talk about. Let me go back to where I was. Completely clicked off of that. Go. And it is called The Tragedy of Man. Limited edition, 1,250 units. I think this is coming out. Not sure when. Probably should have done this research beforehand, but I did not. So, an incredible 23 years in the making, The Tragedy of Man is the legendary Hungarian animator Marcel Yankovic, who did The Son of the White Mare. The Son of the White Mare, which I believe got a Eureka release. I think it was Eureka. Can't remember. Um, that was a beautiful animated film, by Marcel Yankovic. So Yankovic's sprawling kaleidoscope masterwork, a seemingly endless animated scroll of Gorgon-like demons, cave paintings that spring to life, barbarian warriors, bejeweled pharaohs, knights and martyrs, and prophets bleeding together, one brutal age dissolving into another and another. All of human history passing like pages in a flipbook. Adapted from the dramatic poem by the 19th century author Imre Madash, that's often compared to Goethe's Faust and Milton's Paradise Lost. The Tragedy of Man is no children's cartoon. It's one of the most visually stunning and wildly ambitious animated epics ever made. That's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. There's like a whole other like 2 paragraphs worth of descriptions here. I don't need it. I don't need to know it. But special features, new video interview with Geek animator Peroska Martza and background artist Istvan Orost. Moderated by Dennis Bartok of Deaf Crocodile. New video interview with Georgi Raduli, butchered that name, director of the National Film Institute, film archive on the history of Hungarian animation and the career of Marcel Yankovic. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce the name. I'm just guessing. Moderated by Dennis Bartok, new visual essay by film historian Evan Chester, new commentary track by animation producer and podcaster Adam Rakoff, podcaster and film critic James Hancock. I know James Hancock. Filmmaker and podcaster Martin Kessler. Blu-ray authoring by David Mackenzie of Fidelity in Motion. I know David. I know David and his brother. New art by Beth Morris. yeah, once again, uh, Deaf Crocodile digging through the animated movie archives, basically, and unearthing some, um, Hungarian, Eastern European animation that you've never heard of before. At least I haven't, and I can't believe you know this exists. I can't believe this exists, man. I feel you. Uh, Adam Schofield says, "I wish I could afford to buy deaf crocodile tails. They sound fascinating. I'd buy them all. To be honest, that's how you have to blind buy them because I've never heard of them. These movies are so obscure and they're from such areas of like movie history that no one's looked in or no one's like paid any attention to. Like Eastern European animation from the 80s. Like who's really looking in at that stuff? Not very many. I could tell you that." I do have some Deaf Crocodile stuff in my collection from early on. I whip these out every single time because it's kind of the only ones I've got straight off the bat, and that's the Assassin of the Tsar and Zero Grad. I've got to get more of their stuff. I really got to prioritize getting more of their stuff because they do really big, beautiful deluxe editions. I don't know if anybody's gone on their site and just look at the cover arts for their editions, but they look gorgeous. And I'm trying to track down some of the ones that I've missed out on, or at least missed out on the limited edition deluxe versions of on eBay. Not exactly cheap, but not exactly too expensive. But you gotta be patient when you're browsing. Sometimes you'll find things cheaper than you expected. You know what I mean? I'm so impatient too, so I'm constantly battling against myself. But Deaf Crocodile continues to pull out all the stops for movies that you've never heard of. Um, and a lot of these labels do that too. Adam Schofield says, "I've heard other podcasters saying they won't blind buy so much to save D- disappointment, but then how are you going to explore films?" I know, obviously, everybody has their budgetary reasons. Everybody has their um, financial reasons, context, stuff like that. Some people have reasons that they like certain types of movies, so therefore they only concentrate on getting those types of movies. And sometimes blind buying can come back to bite you. You drop, let's say you drop 40 to $50 on a release or whatever, and you don't end up liking the movie at all. What do you do then? I mean, you could sell it, get probably make your money back. But then you got to go through the whole hassle of posting it, selling it, shipping it. That's an extra cost perhaps in there as well, depending on how much that is, all that kind of stuff. Um, so I understand why people stay away and only buy stuff that they know they like. Fortunately for me, when doing all of the research I do here for Chasing Labels, I watch a good portion of all of this stuff, so I get a sense of what I like and what I don't like. You know what I mean? Like some releases, I straight up, I'll be like, yeah, that's not worth that amount of money. Um, it just straight up isn't. Um, let's see. Jeff says, "I recently picked up inflatable sex doll of the Wastelands from Deaf Crocodile. See, now that's a good buy. That's a good buy. That movie is so surreal. If you're into surreal avant-garde cinema, that's a movie for you. See, that's a good blind buy. Not only title alone, but I can say that that's a good blind buy." Adam Schofield but what do podcasters talk about? It's like an echo chamber. That's true. Um, that's the one thing here on Chasing Labels is you're trying to diversify. You know what I mean? That's why we talk about a bunch of different labels. And podcasters, when they do talk about things that you like all constantly, it can get repetitive. You know what I mean? That's why I like to kind of balance things when it comes to these movies. I think movies in general there's good elements and there's bad elements to them, and they don't necessarily like negate the other. You know what I mean? There's a balance there that makes up all of this. You know what I mean? Even some of the greatest movies of all time, there are negatives within it, and you have to mention them, because they're there. I mean, we just talked about Apocalypse Now. There are negative aspects to that movie. Um, you know what I mean? Uh, but I still consider it like a masterpiece. You know what I'm saying? Uh, but where was I? Let's see. I was talking about. Oh, Deaf Crocodile. Yeah, I was talking about Deaf Crocodile. I was talking about um stuff that they're putting out. Yeah, so that's The Tragedy of Man, which is this, I believe, Hungarian um animated film. I said from the 80s. This is from 2011. I'm way off. Um, but still, who's looking at Hungarian animated films in 2011 from 2011? Um, so that's Deaf Crocodile. Let's see. Oh, there's one release. There's two more here. There's a Vestron release, Vestron, which we haven't talked about in forever. I think they're reviving the whole Vestron line. Um, it's a line we don't really talk about that much because Lionsgate for me, and I think I've said this before on here, they're kind of a hybrid label. They both put out mainstream stuff as well as boutique level stuff. And Vestron is seemingly like their boutique line, if you will, because they put out a lot of stuff from the 80s. Um, and so it's a little more older stuff, a little more curated stuff. Uh, but they are putting out the movie called All of Me, which is starring Steve Martin, Lily Tomlin, and this movie is a fun like 1980s comedy. Maybe not for everyone. It maybe hasn't really withstood the test of time. But if you like Steve Martin, it's at least worth it on that level. Kind of ridiculous, kind of dumb. Not one of his best work from the 80s, certainly not at the level of like Three Amigos or The Jerk or even um Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. It's not on any of those levels, but it's a movie that I saw a lot of people um really happy that it's getting a release. So Bachelor Roger Cobb is a lawyer who dreams of playing jazz. Edwina Cutwater, Lily Tomlin, is a millionaire who dreams of inhabiting a new body. But the guru responsible for Edwina's soul relocation goofs, and she ends up in the very different body. She ends up in Steve Martin's body. So, Steve Martin is this lawyer, and he's also a jazz musician too. Already kind of weird, and he's like dawdling between the two, and he decides I'm not going to be a jazz musician anymore. I'm going to concentrate on being a lawyer because I want to become a partner. I want to be successful, all this kind of stuff. But to prove to his bosses that he's a successful lawyer, he's got to facilitate this dying woman's last will and testament. And it's Lily Tomlin. And she is she's pretty much on death's door. She's always been sickly ill, but she's super, super rich. But she decides that she's going to not leave her fortune to anyone. She's not that she's going to leave her fortune to anyone. She's going to, upon her death, she's going to transfer her soul, her existence into the body of the daughter of her like groundskeeper, like the groundskeeper caretaker guy, adult daughter. It's adult. It's not a child. It's an adult daughter, right? And she hired this like Middle Eastern guru type of guy to facilitate this. But what ends up happening is she passes, her soul gets her essence gets taken out, put into like this tin bucket. This is crazy. This tin bucket thing gets put on a windowsill. It gets knocked off the windowsill, hits Steve Martin's character in the head, and the soul ends up inhabiting his body. So now you have Lily Tomlin's character inside of inside of Steve Martin's character's body, and he's got to figure out what to do, and like hilarity ensues. Well, certain hilarity ensues. Some hilarity ensues because like she's controlling like the right side of his body. He can only control the left side of his body. It's physical comedy in the Steve Martin fashion, like you know and probably love. From that perspective, it's a fun movie. It's ridiculously dumb, obviously. Yeah, yeah, it's wild. It's a little wild. Um, so he's got to figure out how to like get the soul back to where it's supposed to be, and all this kind of stuff. Um, but it's like I said, dumb, fun '80s type of fun. Let me see. Ah, here it is. So there's an audio commentary with film historian Joe Ramone, back in Bowl, an interview with screenwriter Phil Alden Robinson, bodies behaving badly, video essay by film critic Cerise Howard, hilarity ensues, video essay by Hollywood historian Stacey Lane Wilson, still gallery, teaser trailer, theatrical trailer stuff. That's whatever. Region A locked. It's part of the Vestron series. Um, the cover art's interesting. It's directed by Carl Reiner, the late great Carl Reiner, who of course was Rob Reiner's father, a legendary writer, comedic writer in Hollywood. Um, yeah, it's certainly a movie. It's certainly a movie. It made me realize I have such a lack of Steve Martin films in my collection, and I need to get some more. Like I don't have, like I was just mentioning, I don't have Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I don't have Three Amigos. I don't have The Jerk. And I was just looking up the other day. I know The Jerk and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels both have like special edition Blu-rays from Shout Factory. They're several years old, like pretty significantly years old. So I'm wondering if those will get 4K re-releases sometime soon, and if so, should I wait? Because once again, Shout Factory is one of those companies that seemingly um um upgrade their old editions kind of randomly. So who knows? Some other comments here. We've got Adam Schofield says, "I want an inflatable sex doll of the wasteland." Oh dear, what have I said? Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Adam Schofield says, "All of Me is so great. Maybe Martin's the last really wacky film. Definitely wacky. He's so physically comedic in this movie. Because he's like essentially possessed. So his like one part of his body's doing something, his other part of his body's doing not doing. It's kind of fun. When he's trying to walk down the street, when he's only control one side of his body, that's really fun. Yeah, there's parts, and there's also parts like he has to go to the bathroom and he can't zip down his fly because he can only use like his left hand and he can't work it well. So she's got to do it, and it's like a little sex joke in there and whatnot. It's all that kind of stuff. Um, um, Adam Schofield says, "No, The Jerk. I hate using the word, but it's a masterpiece. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I've only seen The Jerk like once or twice. Like I said, I don't have it. I still need to get it. Um, what's interesting, my introduction to Steve Martin, I don't think I've said this on here, was the 90s comedies Father of the Bride and Father of the Bride 2. That's my introduction to Steve Martin. Those movies have a special nostalgia for me because I remember watching them on TV with my mother as a kid. Uh, those two early 90s comedies. And what's interesting is that Steve Martin now is still doing great work. If you've seen the Hulu series, um, Only Murders in the Building, him and Steve Martin and Martin Short are really fantastic in that show. Like that show is really funny. Um, they're doing like some of their best work. Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. That's a reference. Yeah. So Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. That movie, Adam Schofield says that movie works so much better if you know the references. If you've seen all the film noir films that movie takes clips from and then splices it into that plot, it works so much better. Because you understand the references. You're like, oh, that's from that movie. Oh, that's that famous actor. That's that famous actress. It's so kind of cool to pick that out. And he says, yes, Only Murders in the Building. He shows he's still funny, and he is. I still need to read. I have his book Shop Girl. I still need to read it so that I can watch the movie adaptation of it. Um, that's one thing I've been wanting to do for like several years now, and I keep forgetting all about it. But yeah, that is. Oh, there's one more individual release here. Let me look it up, and then we'll hit Criterion. There's this movie called Divine Love that's getting a release from Second Run in England, in the UK. It's called Divino Amor is its title. It's a Brazilian film, I believe, from 2019 called um Yeah, like I said, called Divine Love. So, Brazil, 2027, a deeply religious woman uses her position in a notary's office to try to prevent couples from divorcing, whilst waiting for a divine sign in recognition of her efforts. She's confronted with a crisis that ultimately brings her closer to God. It's an interesting movie playing on the idea of like it's like 2027, so it's like it's dystopian, but it's like recent dystopian, or not recent, but like not too distant future dystopian, where apparently like the world is like super conservative now. Like the government and conservative ideas of like meshed into one. It's not on their own possibilities in the modern world, but this woman works for like this, yeah, like this government notary company. She's like a government notary, and she basically tries to prevent people who are going to file for divorce to not get a divorce. And she's also kind of dealing with personal crises in her own life with her own husband, where they're trying to have a child and it's not quite working. So she's having like crisis of faith. She's having like a crisis of like a personal crisis, if you will. And what's interesting is that the world in which she lives in has like drive up pastors that you can go to, like drive through pastors. So you drive up with your car, and there's just like a priest, a pastor, sitting in a garage, and you like talk to him if you're having like personal troubles. Like you talk to him about your life. He guides you, if you will. He gives you absolution if you want to confess your sins. He you know gives you Bible passages to read or something or whatnot. All this kind of stuff. I thought that was fascinating. And but what's also interesting, there's also like these cults, not cults, but like these organized orgies where people go to these clubs and just have like a heck of a good time, if you will. But like that's okay in a conservative religious society? Like it's weird to me. Obviously, it's also Christian coded completely. So when I'm thinking religious society, it's like Christian conservatism. Um, it's an interesting movie, very interesting movie, well acted, probably saying a lot of social commentary about modern times and whatnot. Um, so that's interesting. I want to see what we got here for special features. See, does it announce anything? No, of course not. Let me see if I can find anything. Let me see if I'll go to Second Run's Facebook page, see if they've got anything there. So, because Second Run is a company I talk about, but I don't actually have any of their releases, which is unfortunate because they put out very interesting films. Okay, so let's see, new release news, Divine Love. Here we go, special features. Divine Love presented complete and uncut from a 4K master approved by the director. Gabriel Mascaro on Divine Love, an interview with the director, filmed at the 2019 Zurich Film Festival. And that's it. Wow, so like one special feature? Okay. Okay. Now let's go over to Criterion. Here we go. So Criterion had a bunch of titles. So they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 titles announced. One of them we had already talked about last time, so one of them we don't need to talk about. That is the Janus contemporary release of Vermiglio, which we talked about literally last episode. So episode number 164, we talked about Vermiglio because they had announced it already, and I said during that episode, once the slate comes out for August, that will be in it, and indeed it is. So we've got a movie called Compensation, Saving Face, Vermiglio, Shoeshine, a Confusion slash Mahjong, 2 films by Edward Yang. We have Fires on the Plane, and we have the Burmese Harp. So let's start here at the end and work our way back. So the Burmese Harp and Fires on the Plain are both Kan Ichikawa films. I didn't know I had heard of Kan Ichikawa, but I had never seen any of his films until now. I watched both of these, and yeah, they're very, very good. Like excellent films. Like to the point where I really want to buy these releases when they come out. Um, so the Burmese Harp, take its when did this come out? The font here on in 1956. So, an Imperial Japanese Army regiment surrenders to British forces in Burma at the close of World War II and finds harmony through song. A private thought to be dead disguises himself as a Buddhist monk and stumbles upon spiritual enlightenment. Magnificently shot in hushed black and white, Kanichikawa's The Burmese Harp is an eloquent meditation on beauty coexisting with death and remains one of Japanese cinema's most overwhelming anti-war sentiments, both tender and brutal in its grappling with Japan's wartime legacy. That is what is also very important, I think, about both of these films, specifically this film here, is it is 1956. It's about 11 years after the end of World War II. And this film, I think, is one of the earliest, maybe even be the earliest, of a Japanese film dealing directly with what was dealing directly with Japan during the war, or in this case, the end of the war, and kind of dealing with the events that went on during it, or just events in general that went on during it. Warfare. Just dealing with warfare in general from a Japanese perspective. Not something you saw a lot of specifically at this time. So that I found that is to be rather fascinating just on that level. Um, and the movie, like I said, is dealing, like I said, is dealing with a lot of other elements as well thematically. Really astonishing film. So we've got a new 4K digital restoration. I believe this is a 4K UHD release. Um, and then we've got interviews with director Kani Ichikawa and actor Rentaro Mikuni, and that is it. One special feature. My goodness. And then there's an essay in the booklet by Tony Raines. And that's it. Wow. Wow, I'm kind of stunned. All right, moving on to Fires on the Plain, which is I would say is an even better film, and the first film is great. The Burmese Harp is great. Fires on the Plain maybe even better. An agonizing portrait of desperate Japanese soldiers. Stranded in a strange land during World War II, Kanichikawa's Fires on the Plain is a compelling descent into psychological and physical oblivion. Denied hospital treatment for tuberculosis and cast off into the unknown, Private Tamura treks across an unfamiliar Philippine landscape, encountering an increasingly debased cross-section of Imperial Army soldiers who eventually give in to the most terrifying cravings of all. Grisly yet poetic, Fires on the Plain is one of the most powerful works from one of Japanese cinema's most versatile filmmakers. Yeah, this movie is astonishing. We just talked about Hearts of Darkness. We just talked about movies that deal with kind of, psychosis. The deeper and deeper you get into kind of the unknown, when you get into the jungle, when you get into, anything. Um, this movie takes that approach as well. Really an astonishingly brilliant work. 4K UHD release. Let's see what we got here for the special features. New 4K digital restoration with uncompressed monaural soundtrack. Introduction by Japanese film scholar Donald Ritchie. Program featuring interviews with director Connie Chikawa and actor Mickey Curtis. And that's it. Oh, an essay by critic Chuck Stevens. I'm Criterion, you're killing me here. These two films are astonishing works, like brilliant artistic expressions of a time in Japanese history that is vital. Um, and yet we get one special feature and an essay. Um, all right, all right. Um, at least we're getting these movies in high quality, I guess. And these are, I want to say, brand new additions to. Oh no, these have been in. Well, this has been in. So Planes Fires on the Plain was number 378. I want to see what the Burmese Harp was. So the Burmese Harp was number 379. So my guess is is it just we're just transferring the old special features, which was just like one or two things. Guess that's it. All right. So quickly, because I only got to watch one of the movies, a Confucian confusion. Sorry. So sounds like I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in. Um, so in this pair of sharp, sprawling satires, one of Taiwan's most celebrated filmmakers, Edward Yang, captures the anything can happen mood of Taipei at the end of the 20th century. Made in between his epic dramas A Brighter Summer Day and Yi Yi, A Confusion, and Mahjong, find Yang applying a lighter but no less masterly touch to his explorations of human relationships in an increasingly globalized, hyper-capitalistic world. These intricately constructed ensemble comedies, one set in a cutthroat corporate milieu, the other in a shady criminal underworld, reveal the absurdity and cynicism at the heart of modern urban life. Okay, so a Confucian Confusion came out in 1994, then Mahjong came out in 1996. The reason why Edward Yang is probably maybe familiar to many of you, he directed, like they said, the movies Yi Yi and Brighter Summer Day. Two, I would say, uh, quintessential, I would say, Criterion releases over the last several years. Yi Yi, I've seen. I haven't seen A Brighter Summer Day yet, just because the movie is incredibly long. I also want to buy it. I haven't bought it yet. I always see it at the sale, and I always pick it up, and I'm like, oh, it's now going to be the time I buy A Brighter Summer Day, but I honestly don't know when I'm going to watch it. It's like, I don't know when I'm going to have the absurd amount of time to see that movie. I want to see it so badly. Yi Yi is brilliant. Uh, yeah, that's one of the Adam Schofield kind of says this here as well. Oh dear, Criterion, employ people to do extras. That's the one kind of little. I love Criterion. I own literally hundreds of Criterions on Blu-ray, 4K, DVDs. It's probably like one of the core parts of my collection. But man, sometimes lately they drop the ball on some of these releases with not making new extras. I know cost is a thing. I'm aware of that. I know finances are a big part of it. But it looks like they just kind of carried over what was on the previous release, which was like an interview, and that was kind of it, and then like an essay and the thing. Yeah, I've got Criterion. I love Criterion with a power that knows no end, like with the power of 1,000 suns. Like if you go to my channel, I've been putting up Criterion sale videos since like 2016. So I go there every July and every November, drop a tons of money at Barnes and Noble, buying so much stuff. I've got like hundreds of them, but man, sometimes I'm like, just if you're gonna put out a new edition, give us like one extra feature. Then sometimes they do give us stuff. I guess it all depends on the release. I guess it all depends on the release. I would love to have seen more from these two films because these two films are really exceptional. Maybe I'm a little greedy. Maybe I just want a little bit more. But my goodness, these two films are kind of important films for Japanese cinema. And Japanese cinema is a big part of what makes Criterion, I think, so great. I mean, they've got the films of Ozu, they've got the films of Akira Kurosawa, Kan Ichikawa. They've got, oh my goodness, so many other ones. Mizoguchi and Koreeda. They've got so much great Japanese films. Oh man. Yeah. Let's see. What else do we've got here? Yeah, so like I said, Brighter Summer Day, I still need to see, but Yi Yi is amazing. And these two films are also kind of dealing in similar types of um approaches to storytelling, approaches to plot and stuff. And that at least from what I saw from a Confucian Confusion, is it's all about the interplay and relationships between people. That is kind of at the heart of the way Edward Yang kind of approaches his movies. So Edward Yang's first foray into comedy, which is Confucian Confusion, may have been a surprisingly stylistic departure, but in its richly novelistic vision of urban discontent, it is quintessential Yang. This relationship roundly centers on a coterie of young Taipei professionals whose paths converge at an entertainment company, where the boundaries between art and commerce, love and business have become hopelessly blurred, evoking the chaos of a city infiltrated by Western chains, logos, and attitudes. A Confucian confusion is incisive reflection on the role of traditional values in a materialistic, amoral society. Yeah, that's all accurate. So Mahjong, Edward Yang's follow-up to a Confucian confusion, is another dizzying comedy set in a globalized Taipei, but with a darker, more caustic edge amid a rapidly changing cityscape. The lives of a disparate group of swindlers, hustlers, gangsters, and expats collide with a naive French teenager and a sensitive young local who tries to protect her caught dangerously in the middle caught dangerously in the middle. Yeah, this is not written properly. By boy. By turns brutal, shocking, tender, and bitingly funny, Mahjong is dazzling vision of a multicultural Taipei where nearly every relationship has a price and newfound prosperity comes at the expense of the human soul. What do we have here for special features? So, new 4K digital restorations, I guess for both films, excerpts of a director Edward Yang speaking after a 1994 screening of A Confucian Confusion, new interview with editor Chen Po Wen, new conversation between Chinese cultural studies scholar Michael Berry and film critic Justin Chang, performance of Yang's 1992 play Likely Consequence, and there's an essay in here as well. So that is the double feature of A Confucian Confusion and Mahjong, two films by Edward Yang. And then we got Shoeshine. Shoeshine is a Vittorio De Sica film. Now, if you want to see quintessential Criterion, you've got yourself Vittorio De Sica is quintessential, must have Criterion 101 films is Vittorio De Sica. Bicycle Thieves, Umberto D, Miracle in Milan, I believe is Vittorio De Sica. Um, and you got this movie Shoeshine. Um, those are um definite quintessential Criterion films. Um, I cannot stress to you people how much I love the movie Umberto D. I think about that movie and it makes me emotional. It's such a movie. Oh, universal as human as you can get in that movie. Oh my goodness, so incredible. But Shoeshine, an international breakthrough for neorealism, Vittorio De Sica's Academy Award-winning film is an indelible fable of innocence lost amid the hardscrabble reality of 1940s Italy. On the streets of Rome, two boys, best friends Giuseppe and Pasquale, set out to raise money to buy a horse by shining shoes. When they are inadvertently caught up in a robbery and sent to a brutal juvenile detention center, their loyalty to each other is severely tested. A devastating portrait of economic struggle, made all the more haunting by its child's eye perspective. Shoeshine stands as one of the defining achievements of post-war Italian filmmaking. Now, for me personally, my introduction to Italian cinema is through Vittorio De Sica. It's primarily through post World War II Italian neorealism. You had Vittorio De Sica, you had Roberto Rossellini, and you had very powerful human stories. And this movie is no exception to that. Like this kind of description says, you have these two young boys, Giuseppe and Pasquale, best friends, um, and they get caught up in something that they were tangentially involved in, a robbery, and they get blamed for it, and they end up going to a juvenile detention center. Of course, when you go into these types of places, complications ensue. In terms of testing their loyalty as friends, trying to survive in those elements, and all of that kind of stuff. And this movie, it depicts all of that. Um, really good film, really great film. Let's see what we have here for special features. You have 4K digital restoration undertaken by the Film Foundation and the Cineteca di Bologna with uncompressed binaural soundtrack. You have Susha 70, a documentary by Mimo Verdesca made to mark the film's 70th anniversary. New program on Shoeshine and children in Italian neorealism featuring film scholars Paolo Benefazio and Catherine O'Raw. Radio broadcast from 1946 featuring director Vittorio De Sica. Now, Vittorio De Sica was also an actor as well. Don't know if people knew that. Um, yeah, the movie is relatively short. It's 91 minutes long. Came out in 1946, so literally right after World War II. And yeah, let me see. I want to say this came out before Bicycle Thieves. Yeah, Bicycle Thieves was 1948. So Shoeshine is very kind of almost like a blueprint-esque to Bicycle Thieves. You get the same type of vibes, especially early on, as these two kids are like idealistic and they're like, oh, we're gonna shine shoes to buy a horse and all this kind of stuff. Um, you've got like some makings of what you see in Bicycle Thieves, where in Bicycle Thieves you have this father who needs a job and it relies on this bicycle to provide for his family. So you get the similar types of, like, the working class, working poor, people struggling to get by. You have this looming, aftermath of World War II kind of looming there. Yeah, Shoeshine is really great. Vittorio De Sica is a master. One of the great Italian masters of the 20th century. So Vermiglio, we talked about last time. We don't need to talk about that. Saving Face. Now, this is a movie that people were buzzing about. I understand why. This is a movie directed by Alice Wu. Came out in 2004, and it is very much a queer cinema film. Um, It's very much in the vein of something like The Wedding Banquet, the Ang Lee film, or even The Wedding Banquet that was just came out, which is the remake of the Ang Lee film. It's very much in that type of vein, and this will probably hint at it here as I read this. A queer romantic comedy set in vibrant multicultural New York City, Alice Wu's irresistible feature debut breathed fresh life into the genre by combining snappy dialogue and a swooning love story with a poignant narrative about a mother and daughter coming to terms with each other um just as Will, a harried young surgical resident, begins a promising romance with the flirtatious dancer Vivian. Her life is turned upside down when her more traditional Chinese mother, who's portrayed by Joan Chen, unwed and unexpectedly pregnant, moves in with her, forcing both women to confront the generational and cultural barriers that have long troubled their relationship. Both embracing and cleverly subverting rom-com conventions, Wu delivers a big-hearted ode to the Chinese American diaspora and the liberating joy of life's one truth. So, this movie I thought was fantastic. I actually really liked it a lot. This movie's dealing with rather large cultural themes of traditional themes versus kind of the new burgeoning themes of, sexual freedom, sexual exploration when it comes to the LGBTQ plus community, but also being part of the old tradition of certain cultural norms. In this case, it is, you know, it it is Chinese traditional norms, obviously rather conservative Chinese traditional norms, and that is very much represented in the Joan Chen character. But not only the Joan Chen character, oftentimes in this film, you will see um people within the Chinese community um be incredibly traditional, incredibly judgmental, incredibly specific about adhering to their culture while living here in the United States. And we've seen that with many cultures. I can speak, just directly to my culture, the Portuguese culture. My family is from Portugal. I live in the East Coast of the United States. Many people from Portugal have emigrated over here, settled over here for many, many decades, and they stay within their cultural communities. They have social clubs, they have social gatherings, they have traditions, they have the food and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I can speak from that on that cultural perspective. And all cultures have that. Italian culture has that. The Chinese culture has that. Japanese culture, Irish culture, French culture, Italian culture, etc., etc. You know what I'm saying? So this movie is kind of an exploration of that, but it's also this kind of exploration of trying to break away from that tradition to become yourself, to become something new, something different, something vibrant, something true to yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's what a lot of these types of movies were truly exploring. That's why I brought up like Ang Lee's The Wedding Banquet, because it hits on these types of similar themes of battling tradition versus modernity, the modern times. So I really like this movie a lot. Like this was I really like enjoyed watching it, and this is something I'm definitely going to pick up in the future. So here we do have some special features. So a high definition digital master approved by director Alice Wu, audio commentary with Alice Wu, new interview with Wu and actor Joan Chen. That's awesome. Deleted scenes with optional commentary by Wu, behind the scenes featurette, program featuring Wu and members of the cast at the 2005 Sundance Film Festival. That's really cool. And that's it. But then there's an essay here as well in the booklet. This is currently streaming on the Criterion channel. So if you have the Criterion channel or access to it through whatever other means, um, like if you're sharing it with a friend or whatever, then there you go. You can watch it, and it's a really it's not a long film. It's 97 minutes, and well acted, well directed, timeless themes in it. It's a little dated. It's 2004. Things are different now than 2004, which is now 21 years ago, in terms of um many things, many things. Um, but yeah, that's the movie Saving Face by Alice Wu. I'm good release, Criterion. Good release. I like it. I like it. Um, let's see. Let's see. Acres the movie says fun day. Don't know if that's um um if that's sincere or if you didn't really have a fun day. But either way, glad that you're here. Um, Adam Schofield says I went to art school in the late '80s and we had a film course including Ashes and Diamonds. Good film. Um, um, let's see. Mysteries of the Organism, Zabriskie Point, Teorama, which is the Pasolini film. I've always wanted to get that film. Actually, there's a Criterion of that. Let's see. Adam Schofield, the ultimate art school film though is The Color of Pomegranates. That's a fab movie though. Left a lot in the audience. Left a lot in the audience a bit bewildered. I bet it did. Color of Pomegranates, also another Criterion. I'm telling you, Criterion is kind of pretty much like film school. It really is. I know that's a cliche, and like they said, oh, the John Cassavetes box set was like film school in a box. They're kind of right. They're kind of right. Also, we watched Rome Open City. Very much love um, that day of the week. So coincidentally, I took this was like 2011. I took a film course, and when we covered Italian neorealism, like I said, we watched Bicycle Thieves, but we did watch one of um, Roberto Rossellini's War trilogy. We watched Germany Year Zero. We watched that one. We didn't watch Rome Open City. We watched Germany Year Zero. I feel like Rome Open City is the one people probably know of the most because I think Martin Scorsese has talked about that movie many times. But let me move on now to I think the last film here, and I wanted to watch this film so badly, but it is not available to watch anywhere. I think it was streaming on the Criterion channel back in 2021 and is not streaming anywhere since. This is the movie Compensation by Zainabu Irene Davis, a poignant portrait of deaf African Americans and the complexities of love at both ends of the 20th century. Zainabu Irene Davis's film is a groundbreaking story of inclusion and visibility in dual performances. Michelle A. Banks and John Earl Jelks play an educated dressmaker and an illiterate migrant in 1910s Chicago, and a resilient graphic artist and endearing librarian living in the same city 8 decades later. Employing archival photography and original score, blending ragtime and African percussion, and lyrical editing. Davis deftly intertwines the two couples' stories in ways both tender and tragic. Compensation is a landmark of American independent cinema that confronts the social forces and prejudices that hinder love. Interesting. Yeah, I really wanted to see this movie. Like I said, couldn't find it anywhere. So for special features, new 4K digital restoration supervised and approved by director Zanabu Irene Davis in collaboration with UCLA Film and Television Archive and Women with a Mission Productions, and in conjunction with the Sundance Institute with uncompressed stereo soundtrack. Audio commentary featuring Davis, screenwriter Mark Arthur Cherry, and director of photography Pierre H.L. Desir Jr. Q&As with the members of the cast and crew, two short films by Davis, Crocodile Conspiracy from 1986 and Pandemic Bread from 2023, the latter with audio commentary featuring Davis and cast and crew members. Interview with Davis from 2021, new program about select archival photographs and Adinkra and Veve symbols in the film. Interesting. And there's an essay in the booklet as well. So I'm assuming that 2021 interview was done when the movie was available to stream back on the Criterion channel. But yeah, this is the movie called Compensation, and I wanted to watch it but couldn't see it. I'm pretty sure this is a brand new entry in the collection. Yeah, spine number 1274. That makes sense. So that is it from. Oh no, I lied. There's one I skipped. Cairo Station. I always end up skipping one. Cairo Station by Youssef. I think it's Shaheen. Shaheen. So Youssef Shaheen established his international reputation with this masterpiece, which, though initially a commercial failure in Egypt, would become one of the most influential and celebrated works in all of Arab cinema. The director himself stars as Kanawi, a disabled newspaper hawker whose obsession with a sultry drink cellar leads to tragedy of operatic proportions on the streets of Cairo, blending elements of neorealism with provocative noir melodrama. Cairo Station is a work of raw populist poetry that explores the individual search for a place in Egypt's new post-revolutionary political order. This movie is fascinating. It is kind of all of those things. Does give a very neo-noir vibe with new realist tendencies as well. Set in Cairo, set in Egypt, obviously, and it's a very small type of story, but set primarily, actually entirely at this train station. Yeah, it's really, really good. I didn't know anything about this director, Youssef Shaheen, but there was a whole there's a whole documentary on here about him that will really open your eyes into who this director was and his work and all of that stuff. I think it's on here. So you got a new 4K digital restoration. There's a new 2K restoration of Cairo as seen by Shaheen, a short documentary by Youssef Shaheen from 1991. You get new interview with Fahim. That's Joseph Fahim is a film scholar. You have Shaheen Y 2009, a documentary on the director and Cairo Station. Excerpt from Shaheen's appearance at the 1998 Midnight Sun Film Festival. That's it. But I think that documentary is the one that's because this is also streaming on the Criterion channel. And actually, I could probably go over there right now and see. Yeah, it's just a spotlight on Youssef Shaheen by Richard Pena. So this is not on the disc. So if you go over to, if you have access to the Criterion channel, there's a special feature on there that I guess not on the disc, which makes no damn sense to me. It makes no sense to me. Unless, because that's not, Joseph Fahim is not that guy. Maybe I have no idea. I have no idea why that's not on the disc. But anywho, that's Cairo Station. It's a very good film. I don't want to get into the plot of it because it's dealing with obsessive jealousy. Think of like Jimmy Stewart's character in Vertigo, but maybe even a little bit darker in terms of tendencies. Um, yeah, like kind of like obsessive infatuation. It's dealing with something like that. Um, yeah, it's like a Vertigo meets Peeping Tom. It's in that vein of kind of dealing with that level of obsession. Yeah, gotta check it out. You gotta check it out if you can. Called Cairo Station by Youssef Shaheen. Now that's it for Criterion. Um, so quickly, all of these movies. Let's see, you've got Compensation, Saving Face, Vermiglio, which is a Janus contemporary. You have Shoeshine. You have a double feature of Edward Yang films, a Confucian, and Mahjong. You have Cairo Station. You have Fires on the Plain, and you have the Burmese Harp. Now we will be going over to quickly do Vinegar Syndrome, and because they had their actually coincidentally the oh so okay, I'm sorry everyone. So it is 12:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Their sale just ended, and what happens when they have these sales? Um, they shut down their website when the sale ends, so they can start processing the they can start processing the orders. You know what I'm saying? So their website is shut down, but luckily we're on the internet, and on the internet you can find anything that you want to find if you look hard enough. So yeah, the halfway to Black Friday sale is officially over. Thank you to everyone who participated in the event. Our website will reopen exactly at 12:01 Eastern time on Sunday, June 1st for partners only month. So they're going to be closed for the next week. Their site. So I have to go over to you know what? Luckily we've got friends in high places, or we've got friends who do things for the rest of us. So I'll go over to our friend Ryan Verrill's Facebook page for the Disconnected, because I know he went over all of the Vinegar Syndrome releases that they dropped um on Friday for the sale. So I will scroll down here and I will vamp until I reach that point, because it was several days ago at this point. I completely forgot that they do that. So yeah, let's see. Bum. So as I'm looking, let's see. I think I've reached the point. Yeah, because I only want to talk about the stuff because um the other releases that they already announced, we talked about them already. So I just want to go with the new stuff. So a couple of new things here. We've They are releasing a 4K UHD edition of The Dark Half. So The Dark Half is the Stephen King adaptation of the book of the same name, which I've actually read recently. And I'll say the book is better than the movie. Different and better. So, for those of you who have not seen The Dark Half, it came out in 1993. Like I said, adaptation of the Stephen King book. Thad Beaumont is tired of writing trashy pulp novels under the pseudonym George Stark. In order to make a living, yearning to focus solely on scribing the intellectually stimulating literature he enjoys, Thad decides to literally bury his alter ego in a figurative attempt to finally break free of lucrative lowbrow temptations. However, George isn't prepared to be laid to rest and miraculously resurrects himself out of Thad's subconscious, fully transforming into a flesh and blood double and going on a grisly murder spree straight out of his own novels. So what you've got here is an author who wants to kind of put away um what has made him famous, what has made him well known, what has made him a lot of money in making these kind of trashy pulpish novels, and he wants to start writing higher quality stuff. So he decides to figuratively put away like that pseudonym of George Stark. But what happens is that George Stark ends up manifesting himself into this creature that that starts committing grisly crimes. In the book, the crimes are grisly, and in the movie, they're rather grisly as well. And so, Thad Beaumont starts getting framed for these crimes because they are kind of the same person, two sides of the same coin, as they say. And so that's the premise of the movie. And let's see what we got here for special features. I know Timothy Hutton stars in the film. Amy Madigan's in the film as well. Uh, Julie Harris is in the film too. But we've got a two disc set, 4K UHD, and then of course the Blu-ray. Presented in Dolby Vision, newly scanned and restored in 4K from its 35mm original camera negative. Commentary with George A. Romero. I forgot, this is a George A. Romero film. That's probably significant to many of us. My Roots with Romero, an interview with first AD Nick Mastrandia, a merchant ivory cameraman in Pittsburgh, an interview with cinematographer Tony Pierce Roberts, Shadows of the Past, Locating the Dark Half, a featurette on the shooting locations, and archival extras, 40-page perfect bound book with essays by Daniel Krauss, Scott Tafoya, and Lawrence Stevenson. Yes. So that's a 4K UHD release of The Dark Half. Next, we've got Let's Scare Jessica to Death. I've seen this movie. I actually watched this movie on Halloween night several years ago. Let's see. It's from 1971, and I think it came out. Hold on, let me see. I know somebody put this out. Yeah, so Let's Scare Jessica to Death got a Blu-ray release from Imprint in 2021. I think that's about when I saw it. Yeah, because I think it was streaming on Shudder. It was either streaming on Shudder or it was streaming on the Criterion channel. I think it was Shudder. Maybe. Or maybe it was Criterion channel. I don't know. Let's see. We've got some comments here before I continue. The Golden Child is one of those films that starts as a comedy and then forgets to be funny for the rest of the film. Yeah, we talked about The Golden Child before, how it's kind of like a much weaker, worse version of John Carpenter's film. I almost said Little Tokyo. It's not. Oh no, Big Trouble. Big Trouble in Little China. Yeah, it's like a worse version of Big Trouble in Little China. With Eddie Murphy as opposed to Kurt Russell. It's not great. Let's see. Golden Child, I suppose, is interesting curiosity, but one of the least fun cinema experiences at the time. But then I was a bit sniffy about Star Wars at the time. Tough trial critic I was. And then Adam Schofield says, I watched Let's Scare at the BFI with an original film print. It was so pink, I went to sleep. The box art sums it up. Yeah, it's a slow burn 70s horror film. Not exact. It's more atmospheric than it is like entertaining. Like that's what I will say about it. Let's see. Recently released from a mental institution, Jessica, along with her husband Duncan and friend Woody, have decided to move into an isolated farmhouse in search of a fresh start. When they arrive there, however, they discover a young woman squatting on the property, with the group deciding to let their unexpected guest, Emily, stay with them. Jessica soon discovers that their new companion bears a striking resemblance to a girl who drowned in the nearby lake many years ago, and who, as the local rumor has it, now haunts the area as a vampire. There you go. I can only imagine what's going to happen. I know what happens. I've seen the movie. Heavily inspired by the Henry James novella The Turn of the Screw and Robert Wise's The Haunting. Sure. Let's Scare Jessica to Death is a somber, dreamlike, and at times utterly bone-chilling classic of 70s terror. One of the first horror movies to make extensive use of a synthesizer in its score, which greatly enhances the film's numerous shock sequences. For special features, we have 4K UHD presentation in Dolby Vision, newly scanned and restored in 4K from its 35mm original camera negative, commentary track with John D. Hancock, moderated by Justin LaLiberty, commentary track with Kim Newman and Sean Hogan, a new medium, an interview with John Hancock, The Stars Align, an interview with co-producer Bill Badalato, The Sound of Terror, an interview with composer Orville Stober, and more archival extras. 40-page perfect bound book as well. That is Let's Scare Jessica to Death. So 4K UHD release of The Dark Half, 4K UHD release of Let's Scare Jessica to Death. And then we've got a trilogy box set that's coming out through their VSA line, which is their Vinegar Syndrome Archives line. Sublabel. Yes, sublabel, probably be more accurate. And this is Iron Angels 1 through 3, 1987 through 1989. In the world of Hong Kong action cinema, Teresa Wu doesn't have the same notoriety as many of the other big name directors. However, unbeknownst to many, she is responsible for bringing us one of the most exhilarating action franchises, the Iron Angels series, filled with bone-breaking brawls and bullet-riddled action set pieces. Vinegar Syndrome Archive proudly presents this inexplicably overlooked trio of explosive art films for the first time on Blu-ray in the United States. Cool. So you have Iron Angels 2, and Iron Angels 3. Also known as, let's see, Iron Angels 2 is also known as Fighting Madam. I think Iron Angels 1, yeah. So Iron Angels is also known as Fighting Madam. Iron Angels 2 is also known as Fighting Madam 2. And then Iron Angels 3 is also known as The Return of Iron Angels. They really missed out on being able to call it Fighting Madam 3. So what do we got here for special features? So it's a 2-disc set, so 3 films on 2 discs, newly restored by Vinegar Syndrome from existing studio masters. All films are presented with their original Cantonese language soundtracks with newly translated English subtitles. Commentary track with film historian and author Sam Deegan for Iron Angels. Commentary track with martial arts film expert Frank Zhang for both Iron Angels 2 and 3. Meeting an Angel, a discussion between actress Elaine Louis, Elaine Louis and Hong Kong film historian Arnaud Lanuque. The Angels Go to War, an interview with production manager Johnny Lee. 3 directors and an angel, an interview with executive director Raymond Lung. The Shadow Action Director, an interview with acting director Stanley Tong. These last 2 are actually 30-minute special features. Angels Shed No Tears, a video essay by Frankie Balboa. Original trailers for Iron Angels and Iron Angels 2. 40-page direct bound book with essays by Michelle Kisner, who is a friend of mine here on Facebook. And Madeline Sutton and Erica Schultz. So shout out to Michelle Kisner for writing an essay for Angels trilogy, 1 through 3. Iron Angels, sorry. Iron Angels 1 through 3, sorry. Let's see. The next one here is a movie called Charlie One Eye. This is getting just a Blu-ray release, and this is through, is it just straight up Vinegar Syndrome? No, their VSL line, which is Vinegar Syndrome Labs. Charlie One Eye. In the harsh desert landscape of 1860s Mexico, 2 outcasts cross paths. Richard Roundtree is a former Union soldier, desperate and on the run after killing a superior officer. Roy Thins is a crippled Native American of mixed race who lives as a pariah away from any tribe. Identified only as the black man and the Indian, the 2 deal with the mutual hatred and mistrust before forming a strange partnership until a vicious bounty hunter played by Nigel Davenport finds his way to them. How long can they last holed up in this brutal desert, stalked by both Davenport and Mexican bandits, and reliant on an uneasy relationship that borders on madness? That sounds interesting. It's described as an anti-Western. Okay. What do we have here for special features? Newly scanned and restored in 4K from its 35mm original camera negative. Commentary with Toby Rohn. Chicken Shoot, a making of featurette. With a bunch of people, damn. Pretty much everybody who worked on the movie. One Eye on the Neg, an interview with first assistant editor Jeffrey Mackerel. Twixt Orchestral and Minimalist, an interview with composer John Cameron. A Force to be Reckoned with, Josiah Howard on Richard Roundtree's career. Richard Roundtree's final film, a conversation with Thelma director. Oh my goodness, hold on. Richard Roundtree's final film, A Conversation with Thelma director Josh Margolin. Wow. So I don't know if you remember, I don't know if many of you have seen the movie Thelma, starring June Squibb, but that was Richard Roundtree's last film. Richard Roundtree, obviously known most infamously as Shaft, that was his last film. I forgot he was in that movie. Wow, they interviewed the director of that movie as a special feature for this release. That is very, very interesting. That's really good. That's I'm impressed. I'm very impressed by that. Let's see. So that's Charlie One Eye. Next we've got the movie Breathless. Now it's not the Jean-Luc Godard film. It's the Breathless from 1983. Now, this is the one starring Richard Gere. Yeah. So, yeah, this is the one starring Richard Gere and Valerie Kaprisky. She is a French exchange student at UCLA on the run for car theft and the accidental slaying of a highway patrolman. Jesse finds himself on the streets of Los Angeles, passing time in swimming pools, making love with Monica, and dodging the law that is closing in on him. So this movie is, yeah, I've talked about this movie before. Hold on for a moment. This is fascinating to me because this has already been released here. So I'm wondering why it's getting a second release. So this has already been released by our good friends over at Fun City Editions when they were a partner label here on Vinegar Syndrome. So this is like this has already come out. Like I know it's getting a 4K UHD release from Vinegar Syndrome proper, but I don't know. Hold on. Yeah, it's a 2-disc set, 4K UHD and the Blu-ray. New commentary with director co-writer Jim McBride, moderated by Justin Liberty. New commentary with film writer Travis Woods. Rock and roll as an attitude. The new video interview with Jim McBride. A different perspective. New video interview with casting director Jane Jenkins. To ensnare is to enshrine the ghostly layers of Jim McBride's Breathless, a new video essay by Daniel Kramer, deleted scenes and alternate ending. Okay, it's got tons of new special features. Got it. Okay. But still, now I was just checking to see what this had. But this release by Fun City is a really solid release, and it's not that old. That's why I get a little annoyed by re-releasing things so soon. Let me see when this came out. Yeah, so this came out in 2023. This is barely 2 years old. And I know this isn't out of print. At least I don't think it is. At least I'm actually not sure. I shouldn't comment on that if I'm not entirely sure. But this is a really good release from Fun City Editions. If you already have this, I don't know if you necessarily need to upgrade right away. This does have, a lot of other special features, like I just read off. Definitely, like it's got new commentary. It's got 2 new commentaries, but yeah, it's got a new interview with Jim McBride. This has new 2K restoration from its 35mm interpositive, making Breathless, a newly filmed video interview with director Jim McBride, introduction by director Jim McBride, deleted scenes and director commentary, and that's it. But Yeah, this is like a 2-year-old release. It's not exactly very old here, so I'm just curious why this was getting a re-release so soon. And I know it's a 4K release, so I know rights are a little different, but it also comes with a Blu-ray. Now, I don't know if the Blu-ray has the movie on it or if the Blu-ray is just special features. This is a cinematograph release, I believe. Yes, this is a cinematograph release. So for those of you who don't know what cinematograph is, um, where are you? Oh yeah, there you are. So cinematograph is, I hold this up every time just in case people are new, and it's their like new like sub label that Justin La Liberty is running. Justin La Liberty is in charge of the OCN partner label stuff. Like that's his domain, but he also has his own label now, and it's the cinematograph releases. So it's these kind of digibook releases that are rather deluxe, rather nice actually. I have a few of them myself. Several of them were actually on sale during the sale. I didn't get a chance to pick them up, but that's neither here nor there. They they're rather nice, but I'm just curious why this is coming out when we've got a barely 2-year-old Blu-ray release. And I want to see if they say anything. It just says doesn't say where the 4K, if it's from the same master that was used for this or if it's a new master. Yeah, because this is from a 35 millimeter interpositive. And it's a 2K restoration. So I don't know if they just took what was used for here and put it on the 4K, or if they gave it a new 4K master. Yet again, I can't go to their website because their website is shut down. So I don't know if there's more info on there. But that is that. Let me see if there's anything else. And there were the other releases too that they were already included. Yeah, there's let me go back to my old notes. So I've got my notes from last time. So we talked about Vinegar Syndrome last time. We talked about hold on. Let's see. Yes, I can go check my notes from last time. So my notes from last time. Let's see. Yeah, so they have already announced that they were coming out with The Golden Child, Jade, Dirty Work, Swimming to Cambodia. Those were the movies that they had announced initially, and then they released the rest of their mystery titles this past Friday in the ones I just mentioned: Breathless, Let's Scare Jessica to Death, Charlie One Eye, Iron Angels 1 through 3, and The Dark Half. So with all of those together, I guess that would make up a whole release slate, really, a rather giant release slate. And yeah, so that is everything. That's everything for this episode of Chasing Labels, too, if I remember correctly. We are under 4 hours. Um, yeah, let's see. Adam Schofield says that version of Breathless is more charmless. Is that you're talking about the 1983 one, the one with Richard Gere, the movie? I'm assuming you mean the movie. The movie is different than the Jean-Luc Godard film. It's got the same basic premise about like these two like characters in this kind of pseudo relationship, or not really pseudo, this relationship, and they're kind of on the run a little bit. But they lean into that way more in the 1983 version. The 1983 version for me, it feels a lot more like Bonnie and Clyde, feels a lot more like Natural Born Killers, feels a lot more like the movie Gun Crazy. I don't know if you've ever heard of the movie Gun Crazy, but it feels like a lot more of that. Um, yeah, Swimming to Cambodia is very good too. Adam Schofield says, yeah, Swimming to Cambodia is very good, and the book is better. Yeah, I think we talked about that when we talked about it. I think Adam, I think it was you who mentioned the book too, because it comes with the book. So the edition from Vinegar Syndrome of Swimming to Cambodia also comes with the book, which is really cool. That's definitely something that I want to get. Um, but yeah, Swimming to Cambodia, the Jonathan Demme film, very good. Good, like kind of overall slate from Vinegar Syndrome. A little more some mainstreamy stuff like The Dark Half. The Dark Half's already been released. Like this is that believe the Dark Half's been available on Blu-ray for a number of years. Yeah, the Dark Half got released in 2014. Who put that out? That's a Shout Factory release. That's long out of print. I remember seeing that at stores all the time, especially around Halloween. So that's yeah, the Dark Half. Um, yeah, it's interesting. They always sneak in like a mainstream release in there to get people going. Let's see. I think that's it for everything. Let me close it out here because we will be back here in 2 weeks' time. By coincidentally, we talked about Vinegar Syndrome on episode 164. We're talking about Vinegar Syndrome here on spy number 165, and in spy number 166, which is the next time uh, we will uh, we will reconvene for Chasing Labels. We'll be talking about them again because June 1st is coming, and June 1st will there will be, I think, 22 announcements on that day. I think it's going to be all partner label stuff, if I remember correctly, because it is partner label month for June. So we will be getting into that the next time, and that episode will be coming. Let's see. I want to say the 9th of June. Yes, because next Monday will be the 2nd, and then the 9th. Yeah, 9th, and then but in between then and now, we will probably have some other things cooking here on the Chasing Labels YouTube channel. We will probably have another Movies Down Memory Lane at some point. I want to say it'll happen. Hold on. See, I'm not the one who makes the schedule. I'm not the producer of these things. I'm not the producer of these things. But if you haven't checked out Movies Down Memory Lane, that's up here on the channel now. Steven and I also did a review of, oh, I don't even know where it is. I already put it on my shelf. We did a review of a couple of Imprint titles from March, In the Bedroom, Shattered Glass, as well as Man Bites Dog. So those Imprint releases, we did a review of that. That's up here on the channel too. There will be other shorts and things like that that'll be popping up as soon as I get the motivation to do them. But yeah, that has been it for episode or spy number 165 for Chasing Labels. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for, whether it be through the audio, whether it be through watching here on the live stream or watching later or listening later, however it is. Thank you all for the support. We always appreciate it here. So Adam Schofield, some couple of comments here. Adam Schofield says Gun Crazy is fantastic. It is. I have the DVD. I need to upgrade to the Blu-ray ASAP. There's a Warner Archive Blu-ray that probably looks great. Adam Schofield also says, Night and Andrew, catch you next time. My birthday is the 15th, so close to yours. Yeah, mine is the 17th. So that's coming up, June 17th. Hopefully I'll be able to get some stuff before then. There is currently going on a Kino Lorber sale at Barnes & Noble, a 50% off sale. So if you have a local Barnes & Noble, you may want to check there to see what they've got or check online or whatever. I just wanted to make sure people knew that, just because Kino puts out so much stuff, you're always bound to find something you want. So very, very cool. Thank you all once again. And hey, keep on watching those movies because I know I will.